It's all come down to this. With 11 grueling games behind them, the two best players on the planet will face off in an electrifying final showdown that could decide who will wake up tomorrow as the world chess champion. Will the reigning number one retain the crown, or will the challenger rise and steal the throne? Game 12, live from London, coming up next.
Hello and welcome back to World Championship edition of Today in Chess. And what a day it is for the chess world. We are in the final round of the World Chess Championship. Our American challenger, Fabiano Caruana, facing off against the reigning king, Magnus Carlsen. And we have 5.5 points for both men, the top two chess players in the world. And here we've reached the finish line. Wow, what a couple weeks it's been, and it all comes down to today, Yaz. I'm Jennifer Shahade here with Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan.
Yes, it does. 11 games, 11 draws. This is the 12th and final game in the Classical World Chess Championship. Whoever wins today is the World Chess Champion.
Wow, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat throughout the broadcast, Yaz, because I'm predicting.
We're all nervous, and we're not even in the match.
That's for sure. And I am predicting a thrilling contest, no doubt. So let's take a look at the results after 11 rounds. We have had 11 straight draws. That said, today is a very special day, and Fabi's starting to get a lot with white. So that doesn't mean that today is going to be a draw.
No,
right?
not at all.
Anything could happen today. But if it is a draw and we have 6-6 at the end of these 12 hard-fought games, we will have tie breaks on Wednesday, November 28th. So we're going to have a world championship before December, yes. A world champion.
That is for sure. And as you say, Fabi has white today, and here's the format.
This is the end of a best of 12 games. That's why that magic number, 6.5 points, both players with 5.5 points today. And we do have a 3-part time control, prize fund of over €1 million. But I'll interrupt myself because it looks like we do have moves in the game, Yaz. It's hotly debated in the chess world. Is it going to be a Sicilian, or is Maggie going to revert to the double king pawn, considering that Fabi got so much with white in the last two whites?
And absolutely, he has gotten a lot against the Sicilian. And surprisingly enough, Magnus repeated the same lane that he's been playing throughout the match. Now, Fabi, in the first 3 games that he was white, played bishop b5, transposing into what we call the Rossolimo. But in the last 2 games, the ones you've mentioned, he has essayed the open Sicilian, and the players have quickly gotten themselves into what we call the Sveshnikov defense after e5. This has been the last 2 games, and in fact, we do have they've repeated everything exactly up to this moment. Knight d5, big threat of a fork on the c7 square. There's a trade, takes. Now, in the previous 2 games that he was black, Magnus played the main move, knight b8. That is to say, he retreated his knight from c6 to the b8 square. Today, he's made a little bit of a twist. It's a well-known move. It's highly regarded as well, but he's for the first time, he's played knight on c6 to e7.
Gotcha. Yeah, because of course after knight b8 we saw those a4 games in which Fabi really got a lot in both contests.
That's right.
That said, there were a lot of people who thought that Magnus would still repeat the Sicilian. Don't forget that in game 10, despite the fact that Magnus wasn't prepared and had to burn a lot of clock time, he was actually the one with the most winning chances, in a sense. He was the one setting all the traps.
Exactly.
So clearly what this signals to me is Magnus is not thinking about, trying to grovel for a draw. Like, he is looking for his chances, knowing
right.
that 100% that Fabi's going to be looking for his own.
Yeah.
But let's go to Grandmaster Maurice Ashley, because he has some thoughts on how this contest could impact the history of chess.
Absolutely. As you guys mentioned, there's a lot of stress on both these players because they understand that this is a gigantic opportunity. And once you let go of the rope, you may not see it again, or at least not for a while. First of all, let's take a look at the world champions issue. That is Magnus. He knows this fact. He's a student of history. In the post-World War II era, since FIDE began organizing the World Chess Championship matches, only one undisputed world champion has ever regained the title once losing it, and that was Mikhail Botvinnik, and he was seeded into the rematches. So he did not have to go through the gauntlet of candidate tournaments in order to once again try to get the title back. Magnus knows how hard it is to try to get there again, so he doesn't want to see this stat at all. He doesn't want to hear it. He wants to win this match, maybe today or at least in the tiebreak. But take a look at the challenges road ahead as well. Only 2 undisputed world champions have won their title after a previous failed attempt. That is, you go through the candidates, you finally get there, you lose, and then you have to do it all over again. Well, Spassky was able to remaneuver those waters and get back after losing to Petrosian in 66. He won in 1969. And Anand, after losing to Kasparov in 1995, it took him a dozen years before he finally got the title in his hands. That is, as undisputed world champion. This is not easy. This is a big moment. Opportunity comes once in a lifetime, well, sometimes twice, but it's not an easy road, and that's why, and that is why the players are feeling so much stress right now, and they will have to handle their nerves as this is an exciting start. Beautiful opening as far as the commentators are concerned. I'm sure the fans as well.
Thank you, Maurice. Indeed, as far as the commentators are concerned, and especially as far as the guests are concerned, too, Jennifer.
That's right. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we didn't have the most thrilling start to the game or finish to the game, and we are bringing Garry Kasparov back, and boy, what 2 days have changed. This is exactly the type of position you want to ask Garry about, but the news gets even better. After that, we're going to have Vladimir Kramnik. Yes, it's going to be so much fun to just sit back and hear what 2 greats have to say about the game today.
And not only that, Vladimir Kramnik is quite a specialist in his own right in the Sveshnikov, having won some really, really wonderful games on the black side. So it's nice to have them. We couldn't ask for a better lineup. I just wanted to show what happened in the game.
Yeah,
Knight takes d5, e takes d5, and let me stress the fact that I am not a major e4 player, or for that matter, a Sveshnikov player. I do know a little bit about this line. After the retreat, knight e7, we saw the move c4. Obviously, white is reinforcing his pawn on d5. Sometimes he wants to play c5, but at the same time, white is laying a really nasty trick. If you're not paying attention and you make a very bad move, for example, like g6, you're lost on the spot, like lost. Queen a4, with the threat of
but I can just play bishop d7, breaking the pin.
Yes, you can. And it's the threat was this discovered check and mate. Well, here we just have a smothered checkmate.
I thought we were going to have some Team Fabi moments, but I didn't expect they would come so early. Yeah.
Right. So after c4, this move queen a4 is a massive threat. The knight must move. Now, I'm more familiar with knight f5. I thought that this was the line that everybody plays. The idea behind knight f5 is as simple as it looks. You're going to play one day in the near future a7, a6, driving this knight away, then this knight ends up on the d4 square. But that was not the choice of Magnus Carlsen. He played knight g6, and very surprising to me came the move queen a4. I'm certain we're still in mainline theory.
Absolutely. They seem like they're playing very quickly.
Yeah, and again, the threat of a double check, either by knight d6 or knight c7 double check, forking king and rook, forces bishop d7. Let me boldly state the obvious. Queen d7 would be an horrendous mistake, because after knight d7 check, king moves, it costs
you can keep showing us these lines all day.
Yeah, these are all easy wins for Fabi. So you have to, as black, play bishop d7, and now we've seen queen b4. And okay,
Bishop F5 was Maggie's response. So
Bishop F5.
So obviously, I mean, he is playing with the black pieces and is confident in his blitz skills, but he's not worried about Queen A4 allowing Bishop D7.
That is true. Queen A4, Bishop D7 would be a repetition. Well, I've got to turn it over to.
But a pretty quick reply by Fabi, by the way. H4, trying to harass knight h4 is off limits, guys, because of rook takes h4 and then knight c7 check.
Right, you got to keep the queen would be overloaded, right?
Right, and we would end up winning an exchange in that variation.
Exactly.
So instead, Maggie immediately, by the way, plays h5.
H5. Wow.
Well, clearly still in his prep, right?
Absolutely. Both players are in their prep.
Fabiano, a little less clear. He seems like he spent a little bit of time. So what I think with Magnus, of course, had this position on his board last night. Fabi was probably one of 100 different sub-variations he looked at.
Oh, easily.
Or 50 or whatever you want to say.
I'm sure he was looking at knight b8 90% of the time.
And then maybe spending some time on e5 as well. Double king pawn as well. So he's probably spending a little time on everything. Exactly.
Yeah, he had to split his time a little bit. But
so that's what I think this signifies. Fabiano has seen this, but it's not like crystal clear, so he's trying to recall some of the variations and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Well, Maurice, bring us up to date on what's the opening theory have to say about this fascinating line, Maurice?
And our guest later, Vladimir Kramnik, will absolutely be relevant to this contest as they are following a game of his from Batumi, the Olympiad that just finished, where he was on the white side of this position as opposed to the black side. How much of a surprise is that? But let's first go through the niceties of this position. Here, of course, knight b8 played more often in this position, 2.5 times more than knight e7, but knight e7 also a popular sub-variation. c4, the main move played here, as mentioned, to play this idea. And then the move knight to g6, not as popular as knight f5, but definitely often played as well. It is part of the theory. Queen a4, the third most popular move in this position. Bishops normally move here first. Bishop d7 necessary, as you mentioned. Queen b4, the most popular move in this position. And now queen b8 is the standard move. Queen b8, most often played, most natural. Only 3 times do we find this move versus 42 for queen b8. Only 3 times do we find bishop f5 in the database. So digging deep down is Magnus down into the not so traveled waters to find a move like bishop f5. You would think that one may have escaped Fabiano's notice, but remember, Fabi was playing in Batumi as well. So this line he must have seen, and h4 was Kramnik's choice in that game. And I'm going to pull up the game for us against Rogonovic in the Russia-Serbia match there, and here is where the novelty arises. h4 is intending to play the move h5. In that game, a6 was played. a6 was the move played, and it was responded to immediately by h5. But Magnus has thrown in his wrinkle. He said, no, I'm going to play this one first so you don't get your play on the king side. Now I'm going to play a6 and chase you back. What do you really have in this position? So we are now in new waters. Magnus's novelty, h5 on the board, and we'll see whether or not a response has been made as yet. No, it hasn't. It looks like h5, count the opening novelty anyway, to Magnus, and Fabiano did not prepare this position before the game, we have to assume, as he's stopping to think now for some time. This new wrinkle, will it matter that much? This move played on the board. Clearly, Magnus had it prepared and must be feeling good about himself.
Absolutely, Maurice.
You think, Yaz? You think he's feeling good about himself?
Well, yeah, I do, because quite
I know you don't want to hear it, Jen, but,
no,
dropped h5 on the board very quickly.
I actually see both sides. I'm trying to be objective here about the position itself. Of course, I like it when Yaz shows the checkmates for Fabi.
Right.
But as for the position, I can see both sides, because before
let's be clear. Hold on. Wait. Fabi is the one been dropping novelties.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, seriously.
And good ones.
Yeah. In the previous games that he's been white, especially b4, bishop d2, a4, a5 stuff. And this is the first time I can't even remember how long in this match that Magnus is the one making a novelty.
Right. So you feel good about that?
Well, no, I'm not saying I feel good about it. I'm just saying it is what it is.
Oh no, I mean
you
think that's good for that's good for his chances in this game.
For Magnus's chances, yeah. I'm just saying that Fabi has been the one who's been dictating in this match. From the openings, he's been getting his novelties, his preparation on the board, and this shows something like H5. But the question I had, Maurice, is when you're looking at this position objectively for a moment, you see this knight on B5 and this queen on B4, and it looks kind of, I want to say, amateurish. I mean, there's nothing really behind it. The queen looks a little bit offsides. And then you're combining it with the move H4, which, you're doing everything on the queen side, and suddenly you strike out on the king side with H4. It feels disunited to me, but is there a harmony according to the engine? Does the engine like this approach for white? It looks
You mean for black? Oh.
It looks discordant for white.
For white. Oh, okay.
To play queen A4, knight B5, queen B4. Now you've got all your pieces ganging up on the queen side, and suddenly you toss a pawn out over here on H4, and you go, huh? Why is this good for white?
Well, it's fine for white and a slight edge for white, in fact.
It does.
The engine already likes white's position.
Okay,
I think primarily because of these pawns in the middle of the board. H4, as I'm letting it run, H4 is Stockfish's first move.
Okay.
First response is to disturb the position of this knight on G6 and get this pawn going down the board. And I have to tell you, in the age of engines, we've seen the pawns that we thought had to stay back. Particularly, it started with G pawns, but guys like Paul Carey's and the Carey's attack showed a long time ago you can put your G pawns in the Sicilian. So we're going back into the 50s. But these days, now the H pawns have risen, and you see. I remember listening to a lecture by Matthew Sadler about the fact that he's using AlphaZero to inspect all these games, and he's come to see how AlphaZero loves pushing its H pawns. Now, try to tell a beginner that you're teaching, yes, you should be pushing your H pawn early in a chess game. I mean, we slap the hands of our students when they start pushing H pawns. Are they going to start playing 1H4 now as an opening? I mean, the fact is, H pawns now get pushed regularly. I saw Wesley So win a game in the Olympiad, as a matter of fact, playing the Sicilian, similar type setup, and throwing out H4 early. And like, what does H4 have to do with this position at all? These H pawns get thrown down the board all the time these days. We saw Ray Robson do it as well in the U.S. Championship here. So H4 threatening to dislodge with H5, and now the move H5 stopping that completely. And now the challenge to me though is Black wants to play F5 normally, eventually, right? This pawn in H5 doesn't harmonize with this pawn sitting on F7 and pushing. You're going to give up this square. So is this going to be fluid, the way this position will continue from this moment forward? Not so easy. Also, this knight can be dominated. So, for example, a move like G3 in this position, where is this knight's future? He's going to have to push this pawn forward. You do weaken some light squares, but when you push, you're also weakening some dark squares as well. This is absolutely double-edged. And we've noticed Magnus, no matter what, he loves the double-edged positions with Black. He's been just going after them, even though he's gotten worse positions. It looks like he doesn't mind playing double-edged affairs against Fabi, and he's repeating it again in this game.
Well, I love it. I mean, the issue for me is that, Maurice mentioned AlphaZero, and AlphaZero really liked this knight D5 move.
Right.
That was something that Matthew Sadler, he wrote an article on Chess24 with Natasha Reagan.
Right.
And I think I got that name right, but I'll double check it. And they had analyzed these first 8 games with AlphaZero, and they pointed out that knight D5 is, in the opening in the Sveshnikov, is considered very favorable by AlphaZero.
Right.
So my point is, when you were talking about the pieces of Fabi not harmonizing, I actually thought you were talking about Black at first.
Yeah.
Because, the knight on G6 and the bishop on F5, it doesn't look very Sveshnikov-y to me. And
it's true, because just as Maurice is saying, you want to play F5.
Exactly.
When you put your bishop in the way. And the knight on G6 is a little bit offsides too, and so forth and so on. But again, We're reckoning that the computer likes just this wedge of pawns in the center, c4, d5, as its reasons for giving white such an edge.
Oh, so
now,
yeah.
Now, the crazy part is that in these particular lines of the Sveshnikov, which we've seen in the previous 2 games where Fabi was white, it's boiled down to a situation where white's plays on the queen side. He's been playing b4 and a4 and c5 and, let's go. And black has been playing f5, f4, and attacking on the king side. Now, the inclusion of these 2 moves, h4 and h5, well, it's going to make it quite awkward for the players to be castling kingside. I can see, just as Maurice is saying, that after a move like g2, g3, and maybe bishop e2, it's not going to be so easy for black to get kingside castle.
Not to mention the fact that we can throw in the move bishop g5 at any moment.
Bishop g5 is also one of those annoying moves.
With or without bishop e7, and you can't really play takes because the d6 pawn will be under fire.
Right.
So
likely to induce f7, f6.
Which makes castling even less palatable.
Right. I mean, both sides are bummed out that their kings are not going to have safe bunkers.
I hate
on
to
the
tell you
king
guys,
side.
but the move queen a4
Yes,
is on the board. Queen a4 played, and bishop d7.
What?
Bishop f5.
No.
Did
Only
I,
one
did
time.
I see right?
Oh, well, maybe he's just trying to save a move because he anticipates that on move 40, he's going to be more likely to be on time pressure. So he might just be trying to... But question for Magnus, if after bishop d7...
Boy, that was a Freudian slip if ever I heard one. That's great, Jennifer. Okay, instant classic after that. Yes.
No,
Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, whom we admire and respect as one of the greatest people
Oh,
ever.
and I love the way he's playing this opening. This is giving the fans a lot to look forward to.
To cheer about.
But that said, this horror ending to the match that Maurice is kind of alluding to, bishop d7, queen b4.
We've seen the move queen a4. Is that right, Maurice?
Queen a4, bishop d7.
We've seen a repetition.
Correct. Queen b4.
Right.
And queen b4 has already been played. Oh my.
And bishop f5.
Wait, but does Fabi have any other? Does Magnus doesn't have any other options besides bishop f5 that were good, right? Or could he switch it up?
How?
It's not so easy because if you play, for example, bishop g4, after all, you don't want to really be in front of the pawn. Then this move bishop d3 could be very annoying. You don't really want to see bishop takes
And don't
g6
forget, I can
occur.
play bishop g5 in interpolation first.
Exactly.
So bishop g4, bishop g5, and then bishop d3
Yeah.
after you've already played f6.
Exactly, something like this.
Yeah.
Oh, you're making a very good point, Jenna. That just looks like an out refutation, because now bishop d3, and as you're pointing out, you can't move the knight. The knight can't step back because d6 pawn is hanging. So bishop f5 is actually forced.
So
in that case.
so basically, if Fabi plays queen a4, it's done, right? But
he could make a draw by
But that would be the last
h4,
one.
h5, h4,
Well,
h5.
would that be the last one after queen a4?
No, because bishop f5 came when the pawns were still on h2
Right.
and h7.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So he would need to play it twice.
So what do you think is the reason for this repetition?
Or no, but after queen a4, bishop d7, then he'd play queen b4. So this is kind of the moment. Because after queen a4, bishop d7, is there a better move than queen b4?
only appears twice after, because h4, h5 has been played. So queen b4 would have only appeared twice.
Right.
So it's still
it's
still not there yet.
But hold on, just to include the whole audience into our discussion, in chess, when the position repeats itself exactly the same 3 times in a row, or 3-time repetition we call it, the game is a draw, and either player can claim the draw by repetition. And what we have been seeing is that white has played this move, queen a4, with this deadly threat of a discover check. That threat got blocked. The bishop retreated, Magnus's bishop retreated, stopping the threat of knight takes d6 double check. Fabi has played queen b4, again renewing.
This is the second time we've seen the position with queen b4.
Okay.
Yeah, so if
fine.
he does play queen a4 again, and after bishop d7,
Wait,
queen b4
what
would
do
be
you
a
mean
draw.
it's the second time?
Right?
H4, unless my board is not up to date.
h4, h5, and then
Okay,
that's one.
H4, H5.
That's one. That's one situation where the
Right.
Yeah,
Where
that's
the
the
queen
first.
is on B4.
That's the first
H4.
position.
So the queen's on B4. So
Yeah.
queen A4, bishop D7.
So that's
Right.
2. Yeah.
What's 2?
No,
The
that's
position.
1.
Oh,
This is 1 for this position.
he hasn't played
This is
queen
the-
before yet.
This is
you
the
mean?
first time this will have been seen.
Right.
So now queen B4.
So this is the second time
this is the second
position's
time we've
been
seen this position.
Yeah.
And this position
Yeah.
also
Second
the
time.
second time.
What I'm saying
So
is,
if he
if White
plays
were to
queen
play
A4
queen
now-
if White were to play queen A4, it would be the second time with queen A4. But then after bishop D7, he
And
couldn't
then
play.
queen
He
B4.
couldn't play queen
Queen
B4.
B4 would
He'd
then
have to find
repeat it
something
3 times.
else.
Right.
Right. Which
Right.
doesn't seem right. I mean, it seems like queen B4 is the best move after bishop D7. So if Fabi wants to do something else, he'll do it now.
Right.
And I
well,
think
you could also, in this position, you can also play queen A3, I believe, is the
okay.
other way to play. So you could go into other lines as well. But I don't think Fabi is going to just not repeat for the sake of changing up the position because he has not prepared that position at all. The problem for him is dealing with this novelty. He knows that Magnus has prepared it.
Right.
And if it's either he continues along this line right now, or he just repeats and says, that's it, I don't want to see this position at all. That would be an incredible concession on his part, a victory for Magnus. And I think people would be howling from London all the way to Mumbai watching this and saying, is this how you play chess tournament, a chess match? A quick, easy repetition like this in game 12? That would be incredible.
For all the marbles?
For all the marbles.
I don't think he's going to.
We saw
What do
something
you guys
similar.
think?
We should note, though, we saw something similar in New York.
That's
Game 12, Magnus
Right.
with the white pieces played an anemic opening line and quickly just shut everything down and said, I want to see the tiebreak. Now, Magnus does that because he was favored in the tiebreak, though not as much in that one because he was playing against Karyakin as he would be considered in this one.
Right.
When Fabi doesn't have the same kind of historical record as Karyakin did, former World Blitz champion, after all. So for Fabi to say, I'd rather see the tiebreak than the preparation here, that must be just his heart beating in his chest right now, trying to make that decision. What does Magnus, I never call him Maggie, I don't know why. Jen, you got
yeah, everybody's
what does
flipping around
Magnus
here.
have prepared in this position that would make you avoid it completely? You got the white pieces with a spatial advantage. The guy plays one new move and you run. You
I
hightail
don't
it.
think he's going to do it.
Whoa.
No way. U.S. Chess puts it well when it tweets, please don't repeat, please don't repeat, please don't repeat.
Yeah. Welcome to Robot Airlines. And nothing can go wrong. Fabi doesn't repeat because he has a really good move. Maurice, what is that really good move?
Well, I was checking some lines with the engine, just playing around, horsing around. The engine does like to move bishop to g5. Of course, f6 is such a major concession. The engines go nuts. Thank you very much for that move. Bishop e7, the capture will occur on e7. You have to take back with your king because your pawn's hanging. So best is simply queen to b8. White still has a simple edge here after the move g3, controlling that knight on g6. At any moment preparing to bring this piece back. After a6, you drop your knight back. No problem. Now, check out this line, bishop to e7 in this position. Takes on e7, king takes on e7. King takes, that's right. c5,
Yeah.
you want to try something like this? He just says, we don't care. Let's keep playing chess. You got me in the middle. I got development. You want to go for a position like that? That's okay. Black is doing just fine in a position like this, even sacrificing pawns. If that's what Fabi is looking at,
Wow.
these are pawns I don't want to take. It's a line I'm not sure I want to go into when the guy is better prepared than I am. So he'll be facing this challenge as their original ways to play with the black pieces. That creates some trouble. And as you're sitting there calculating it, you're going, he's already looked at all of it. The
Right.
same issue that Magnus has had against Fabi many times during this same match.
He didn't do it.
He didn't make the repetition, by the way. And, surprisingly enough, he didn't throw in bishop g5, which looked like the more aggressive move. He has played bishop e3 at once. And, sorry, Maurice, are the players, even without the repetition, are they still in theoretical waters. In other words, h5 actually was already the novelty. Sorry, I stand correct myself. We've seen h5. So bishop e3
I'm
on the
not
board.
sure if I see that yet, actually.
No?
I'm not sure. Yeah,
Oh,
maybe.
sorry, I thought
Hold
I
up.
saw it
I'm not sure it's on
I
the
thought-
live board yet.
Okay, I saw it flash up on my
Yeah,
screen.
me too, for a second, but then I'm seeing something else, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Let's get confirmation of what the moves are.
Okay, we'll wait for that. But
Yeah.
let's say bishop e3.
Would that be a good move?
Would that? Well, it does attack a7, and it just sets up.
I just can't believe he's going to repeat. Yeah, I just can't believe it because I feel like he's white, and it just doesn't seem likely to me. And it's a very common psychological trick that you repeat once. I
Yes.
think it's like recommended in Dvoretsky's books.
Well,
because
Kotov and Think Like a Grandmaster in the Soviet School of Chess.
A book
but,
you don't like.
I hate these books. They're
But
terrible.
they recommend you repeat once for two reasons, especially if you're under time on the clock like Fabi is. A, it might not seem important now, but it's kind of like investing in your 401k. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter now, but
You put some of the money aside.
20, 30 moves down the line or 20,
might-
30 years down the line, suddenly that extra move that you snuck in might mean something.
Exactly.
Bishop e3 was played.
Oh,
At
okay.
least Ceci has it on its screen. I checked over at another board, and bishop e3 is on the board.
And the
Bishop
second
E3
thing is you
has been played.
psychologically tell your opponent, I'm going to make you
I'm the
tell
one.
me that you want to repeat moves.
Right.
So there's like a two-part reason for doing it. So I just couldn't imagine. It would be such a, as Maurice said, such a psychological concession. I think to me it feels like you prepared this line, your opponent surprised you, but you're still white and you're the number 2 chess player in the world, just neck and neck with number 1. It would be too much of a statement, I think, to
Well, that's
repeat
not the,
moves.
Sure, and I understand all of all of that reasoning seriously, but the thing that I think is the real problem for Fabiano is, I really don't think he should be playing a tiebreaker. I really think he's a very serious underdog, and I think he actually has to risk and play on with the white pieces. So I'm very happy to see the move bishop e3, not because of the psychological and things like that. I think he just has to win
Yeah.
it here and now.
Right. Combined, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Maurice, your
Maurice,
thoughts?
what about bishop e3?
It's such a sharp position to have to play. If you are white, you haven't seen it ever. But at least the main line with bishop g5, he's avoided for the moment. And that is most likely what Magnus really concerned himself with in his own analysis. So practical reason. Bishop g5 is the sharpest move, obviously. Let me just get this position. This is the live board. Bishop to e3 bishop to g5 is the most pressing move, not necessarily the most obvious, but the most pressing move. While bishop to e3 might be the most natural move, just develop a piece and keep things going. Magnus did not take that long, and he's played the principled move a6 on the board right now. We expect to see the move knight to c3. And again, the Indians don't care about pawns here. Bishop to e7, saying you can have the b pawn if you like. Now, if you defend this pawn, it gets even more curious. Black is just going to castle. You want this? Bishop to e2 could then get played. And then this pawn starts to hang, and black will say, you want this pawn e4. Take it. You can have it. Takes, knight in. Bishop back to deal with these threats. Well, maybe we go after some play with bishop to g4 is what the Indians would get. They're immediately sacrificing material. Like, you go right ahead. This is going to be fine for black in the long run. So sharp chess by black trying to prove that white spatial advantage is pretty much irrelevant in this kind of position. And this queen is just floating because it really wants to take this pawn, but it really doesn't want to take the pawn. Because the tactics immediately along the B line, and plus black is looking at pressure. Also difficult to castle because sacrifices on h4 in this position. I mean, Fabiano now knows that he is in shark-infested waters. This is going to be difficult to maneuver. If he wins this, he deserves to be world champion.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a world champion sitting across from him saying, I got you in my prep, and I'm confident. Let's go.
Well,
what do you have?
Is he still in his prep after bishop e3, guys? I mean, because that can't have been his main
Absolutely.
line.
He must still be in his prep.
Totally.
If bishop g5 is in his prep, bishop e3 is in his prep. Because bishop e3 is the secondary move. They analyze all of bishop g5. That's the principal computer move. But you've got to look at, okay, what if the guy decides I'm not going to go down that line? You're not going to burn all your bridges in bishop g5.
Right.
You've got to have your backup move ready.
Right.
Bishop E3, A6, Knight C3, Magnus to play.
Well, here's my thought process, Jennifer, because you asked a very salient question. How deep is the prep? Are we still in prep? Once we see this move H5, and the pawn on H5, just as Maurice has been showing, really kind of sticks out there like a sore thumb, right? I mean, we're going to play Bishop E2. We're going to constantly pressure this pawn on H5 and make it very difficult for Black to castle kingside. So we understand that we're going to have Bishop E2 as a main move. We're going to have Bishop G5 because it's the easiest move to play. It threatens a queen with a tempo. And we're going to have the move Bishop E3, which is a very easy move to play because it threatens a pawn with a tempo. So then we can easily see that Magnus has got this position on the board, for sure. And he's going to say, guys, I'm not satisfied with this preparation. There's too much at stake. Bishop E2, bother me. Let's analyze some more. He's going to say, okay, I've got to deal with the pawn on B7. Should I be worried about it? Maurice says, don't worry about it. Just play Bishop E7, invite captures, Rook B8, Rook takes B2, and you're living large. Thank you, says Magnus. Okay, what's the next move?
By the way, just to follow that line, I want to tell you what Ceci thinks about this
Okay,
position.
queen takes B7, Rook
Queen
B8.
B7. No.
No.
Castles.
Take it easy.
You got your pawn.
You got
Nobody's
the
worried
pawn.
about you. Your H pawn is always hanging. We'll
Right.
steal it when ready. You're paying attention to it or not. Now, ridiculously, this is just ridiculous.
What
and
Ceci
this is what Ceci's going to say next. And what a human player will have to assess.
Yes.
Queenside castles right now. I mean,
What?
like, no way,
No,
how is anybody playing like this? I don't care what, unless you have looked at this for days with the I mean, you're laughing. There is no way as a human you're playing this kind of chess. And I'm correct.
I'm
correct.
thinking about the Queen's Gambit declined, sorry, Magnus didn't castle twice
without any of these worries.
No.
Exactly, and I've got it up here. It's Bishop E7, Queen B7, castles, queenside, allowing knight takes H4.
Wow.
That's yeah, sure. Maybe that's best, whatever. But to humanize, and all of us here, we're looking at it going, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. There's no way we're doing that. And there's no way Fabi is doing that.
No.
I don't care if it's the best move on the board. There's no way Fabi is doing that. There's going to be pot shots at his king forever after that.
Right. Okay, so we're looking at Bishop E7, and then we're looking at G3. Because,
Yeah, that looks like...
I mean, that's such a human move. You're not going to really tap this pawn. And after G3, we can imagine castles. Again, same issues. We really don't want to capture that pawn, have to deal with Rook B8 and the other stuff. Now, this is where it gets interesting right here. I'm saying Bishop E2, Magnus has had this on the board.
Yes. And,
Okay.
and then now Maurice is saying E4.
And then
So what about
Magnus is
Bishop,
now Magnus is
what about
angry at
Bishop
his team.
G2?
Yeah.
What about Bishop G2? Because if you feel like you have Bishop D3 on me, huh? Bishop D3 is annoying or no?
Sure.
But also the
Just
bishop
stopping
doesn't
the
belong
castle.
there. Because,
Yeah.
Because you want to put the bishop on that other diagonal.
I just wanted to stop E4. So, because the E4 was looking really nice.
You mean you're trying to just figure out a blockade of that square? There's going to be some challenges because another point is F5 is coming really, really fast. And I'm also not sure, are you stopping E4?
I was also worried about Bishop D3 and Rook C8. That was actually my concern. But
that looks like a reasonable concern as well. Bishop D3. I like Maurice's idea of just going F5.
No, but if you do that, I might castle queenside. Sorry.
oh well, now Fabi might find it because.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do with your bishop? You have to play bishop back to F5. You just gave me 2 tempi. Is it different? You can play E4 here, or what?
I don't know. No, I didn't think of the move Bishop G2. It wasn't on my radar at all. I was
Bishop
just saying.
E2 is so natural.
It also guards
of
D3
course.
in the long
So Bishop E2, and Magnus says, "Okay, team, you're preparing me for a loss. I'm really unhappy. Look, I'm going to lose a pawn. what do you got me playing? And they say, no, take it easy. After the move e5, e4, you're going to get really good compensation. The knight is going to come to e5, and actually white has issues to deal with. And then they spend an hour or two looking at this, and Magnus's confidence soars to such an extent that he says, okay, I'm ready to play this line. And I'm saying that I suspect Team Magnus has looked very, very deep into the position they have on the board, and that the preparation is going deeper than what I have right now.
So you're worried for
big time.
Fabi's team?
I would be worried very, very big time.
Breaking news.
Your thoughts.
Breaking news, though.
Yes, please.
Instead of playing, let's back up.
After bishop e3, a6, knight, c3. We got this.
Dynamic play suggests bishop e7 and castles, right?
Correct.
Dynamic play. Of course, dynamic play means nothing if you just lose a pawn and the game is over.
Right.
And you just lost a pawn. So we're not in the age of intuition as much anymore, when you could be like Tal and say, you want my B pawn, go right ahead.
Right.
These days, guys actually take those things and say, prove it.
Right.
And they have a computer sitting next to them saying, yeah, I got the pawn, you got no play, trust me. Or you have play, but you get to play for about 5 or 10 moves, and then you have to give the toys back.
Yeah,
Then it's our turn.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing you deal with now. So bishop e7 is definitely a move that is sacrificial, that is unclear, that is a little bit wild, but looks like black has compensation. That said, Magnus has played queen to c7. And the Indians hate this move. I mean, they just think, why would you do that? You don't need to be playing gigantic queen moves, defending pawns in such a way. And this move is not something that comes up as first move by the Indian. I'm not even sure if it was second move, in fact. Actually, it was second move. It was the second move, guard the pawn. So he's gone rogue almost with this very solid move, and maybe that's too much to say going rogue, because he's sort of just left what looks like the more enterprising sideline and play this move. And I'm going to tell you that the Indians like white a lot after this. Sessi so much as at 0.5 right now with this move, queen c7. Is this the prep? Queen c7. If I'm going to tell you, if I'm white, I'm relieved to see a move like queen c7 versus the sharp bishop e7. Queen c7 seems like it slows down the pace just a bit, right? Gives me a little tempo to breathe. This move, what do you think, guys? I mean, this doesn't look like a testing variation that white will be worried about, that this came on the board and now they're just playing chess.
Well, first of all, I'm with you all the way on that one, Maurice. Queen c7 wasn't even on my radar, not even as my second or third move. Bishop e7 just overrode everything, because I just saw bishop e7, black gets a safe king, and with this pawn out on h4 and these ideas of e4, I just thought the compensation huge. Now, after I see the move queen c7, I start thinking, well, yeah, lost tempo, sure. You're playing defense. I think that Magnus had this as some kind of a backup line where, he doesn't burn bridges. Maybe bishop e7 and castles was a kind of bridge burning thing. Here, I can understand that the difference, and Magnus may have liked the positional aspect of this. You're losing a tempo, but if you ever get your knight, you get your knight to d7, in conjunction with the queen on c7, controlling the c5 square. I would like black. And the reason is because the queen on b4 looks so silly, right? Like, you put the queen back on d1, and then play queen d2, and then play b4 and a4, and you get right back into the first two games that Fabiano was white, where he got the queen side breaks in. Right now, his queen on b4 is in a kind of a no man's territory.
So do you reckon that Magnus also analyzed this, and he analyzed it a little bit more deeply and feels that black's practical chances are high, even if the computer doesn't favor the move?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he just had a dual purpose approach is what I want to say. And oftentimes you'll feel that at the board. Do you want to play enterprising or do you want to play solid?
So you don't think he prepared this knight e7 specifically for this game? You think this was on?
Oh, I think he did.
Well, then wouldn't he know what he wanted?
Oh yeah, no.
So
I'm
then
just
he would
saying
know that he didn't want to play.
that oftentimes you get to the board,
And then you change your mind at the board.
yeah,
I
and
see.
and you have two good options.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, that makes sense because also Fabi has thought, but maybe like he would have played the bishop e7 line if Fabi thought for like 40, 50 minutes.
Yeah, that kind
like
of
that,
thing.
like where it kind of depended on how shocked Fabiano was.
Right. And sometimes you pick up from your opponent, in this kind of animalistic way that, I haven't really surprised my opponent that much. Ooh, like he's been
Maybe
working
he's
on
actually
this.
prepared it.
Yeah, maybe
like some
he's
poker
been looking,
tells coming into that.
Right. Like maybe he's been working on this position as well. Okay, in that case, I'm gonna choose the solid line as opposed to going all out.
Some of the grandmasters we've had on, especially the elite ones, to remind everybody, we have Gary Kasparov and Kramnik coming on.
Talk about the elite of the elite.
They've talked about preparation and said that everybody's using incredible engines. So if you're just picking the engine's first choice, there's a good chance your opponent analyzed it.
Yes.
And that the trick is to find a choice that the engine doesn't necessarily favor, but if you go deeper, suddenly its evaluation starts to switch.
Precisely.
So that's a lot of the preparation game, if you will.
That's really the art of using the chess engine, and I see these elite players, and I gotta just say Vichy really has impressed in his use of the engine and just knowing how to guide it a little, tweak it. Look at this, look at that, and just as you're saying, look at the second and the third best lines according to the engines, and then find something there.
Especially
this position
if
is
it requires,
rich.
especially like if, as Maurice was showing, if the engine line requires white to like castle in some position, queen-filed, in order to get like that, whatever small advantage, then you can say, well, what if they don't? Then they're actually worse. Well, this could be a really good line.
Exactly.
So there's some psychology intertwined with the.
No question, you can intimidate your opponent. A move like castles immediately takes our breath away. We say, don't do this without, really a great deal of preparation, because you could just be walking into a checkmating pattern.
But to the contrary, in these lines, it seems like White's moves suggested by the engine are rather natural, aren't they? The ones that you're putting on the board, like Queen C7, Bishop E2, and G3, and castle's short.
Yeah, but again, the inclusion of H4, H5 makes White's life uncomfortable on the king side.
And that E4 is still an idea, right?
It's still an idea. And again, these positions, Black is looking for his kingside chances. Maurice keeps coming back to the move F5. F5 starts to look really good when my opponent has played H4. It really increases the value of the kingside attack. Now, Maurice, going back over to you, Queen C7, apparently the second best move on the board. How is Fabi supposed to continue the game now?
G3, we're there. One move, though, I'm playing like a beginner, but it's the move I thought about and wondered about was, what if I attack the queen with bishop to B6? Is this just random? Just throwing a queen out there throwing an attack out there for an attack's sake? Well, I am trying to clamp down on that square.
Right.
I'd rather have my knight there, obviously, than have my bishop there. But even so, it is a question as to what you're going to do with the queen in this position. And especially, you have this plan of bringing your knight to D7.
Right.
So if you put your queen over here, then you've taken away that square. And maybe at some point, I'll bring my knight and switch with you and get my knight in on B6.
Right.
And switch with that bishop. So bishop B6, queen C8, G3. This is another principled way to play. First, grabbing that B6 point. And the engines actually say bishop B6, second best move to G3 immediately, but only by a little bit, only by a tiny bit. I had something like 0.29 versus 0.27. That's 29 centipawns versus 27 centipawns. So this position still continues with bishop to E7, bishop E2, knight F8, looking to get here. And now you can play a move preempting the idea, knight A4. Seeing this move, knight D7 is coming. You're ready to bring your bishop out and then replace it with a knight. You do have to watch out for things like bishop to E4, attacking your rook. Bit strange now. We're definitely in computer land as we look at positions like this. You're trying to get a positional understanding, a feel, a flow, but it's move by move right now. It's not like you see deep strategy at work. It's, does this work or not? Is this a better setup than the other one? I'm not really sure. because we're in a non-standard position. This is going to be about who outplays the other. I think the opening now is basically, well, I can't call it concluded, as people, their players are still trying to develop their pieces and get the kings castled. But I think the opening prep, like the deep prep, the things that you would have to worry about. As far as Fabi's concerned, he's not going to get mated in this line. He's not going to get blown out by some novelty. He's just in a new position he hasn't seen before. So it's time to just compete as a player. And now we're at that phase where you start coming up with your own ideas, hope the other guy hasn't prepared against them, and it's just chess.
Wow, Maurice. First of all, we're seeing a very chaotic, unclear position in an extraordinarily high-stress game. Man, talk about amping it up at just the right time. Who is this favoring, this kind of stressful, chaotic game?
Well, Gary Kasparov, who we had on the show the last couple rounds, pointed out that in this moment in Game 10 where the nerves were at the absolute highest as the championship crown hanged in the balance in a complex
Bishop
position.
B5,
Both players played like almost perfect chess in
It
a
was
situation to
extraordinary.
defy all odds. So there's also this idea that nerves are going to affect the top players. Sure, it might make them play better. That's why they're number 1 and number 2 in the world.
That's extraordinary, yeah. I mean, I think of time travel as making fools of all of us. I think chaotic positions as well, Maurice.
And again, when you're working with engines, as these players do every single day of their life, they
Right.
grew up on these things, and so they get to get a feel for what the engine might say or what makes sense. Nowadays, it doesn't look like much makes sense at all when you're looking at engines. You have to try to make the most of it. Sessi is giving in this position. I'm going to give you one of those types of positions. Sessi is giving Queen A4. I'm going to pull this up on the bigger board so you can see it. Sessi is giving Queen A4 check,
Okay.
Bishop D7, and Queen B3 as White's best variation. Yeah, I see you shaking your head.
What?
Yes. The same way I was like, how? And then, by the way, Bishop E7, G3, and you say, why did you just lose
A tempo.
a straight tempo to put your queen on B3? Because Sessi wants control of the E4 square
I see.
for this knight.
Okay.
That was the point. Is that such a critical point, such a major point, putting your knight on a square where F5 is going to happen and allow F4 and all that? There is no way Fabi plays that way. Like, no way. There's some things that a human may say, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know what? I didn't see that move, but now that I've seen it, the way Anand said, once you see the computer move, your brain can't turn off from it.
Right.
This is one your brain will turn off. You'll say, I'm sorry. Queen A4 check,
get
Queen
it.
B3. I ain't playing that. That's ridiculous. Like,
I don't
are
get
you
it.
joking? That's a chess from another planet, and you'd have to play a lot of moves to justify that, to feel good about yourself playing Queen A4, Queen B3. So you can work with computers up to a point, and at some point your human side takes over, and you say, oh, you know what, let's find another path.
Yeah, and that's the point.
I'd start looking
Yeah.
for chips. If I saw Queen A4, Queen B3, I'd like, TSA, I want a body
this
scan.
guy.
I thought you were talking about poker chips.
No, I was talking
But,
microchip.
So Queen A4, Queen B3, okay, not going to
Not
happen.
happening.
But
G3, Bishop E2, very, very likely. Even that idea, Maurice, I saw a lot of merit in that whole idea of redirecting the knight to B6. So something like G3, Bishop E2, Knight A4, I can see that.
Knight A4.
Possibly
When you put Knight A4 on the board,
Right.
Stockfish actually likes it. When you
of
actually put
course.
it on the board, it's like, yeah, that's not a bad
Yeah,
idea.
that's not a bad idea.
Your
I mean,
Stockfish doesn't like it. Just
well,
so
okay,
so
but
it go down.
But it'll warm up to it.
It'll warm up to it as soon as we see. These are logical moves. These are moves that
Right.
we know you can play. This is human.
Is it?
This has been tried before. We saw Fabi get a knight on B6 in
after
this
Bishop
line.
E7, Knight
right?
B6.
It has happened.
Yeah.
So you put a knight on B6. It's not the same as you got in the previous game because now the rook has a bit more flexibility than it did.
well, what
in
about Rook
the
B8 and
B8
then just
ideas.
Bishop D8 though, right?
I've
So
got
we
Bishop
can-
on E3.
Yeah, you got a Bishop on E3 anyway.
No, that knight will sit there and
But you've got to
there's-
play G3.
You're going to play. He's going to
Yeah.
play with Bishop
Okay.
E7 and Knight
Okay.
F8 and Knight D7. That's what's going to happen once the rook moves away. So that's.
Now, I can imagine
the direct
Knight
plan.
F8, and then like okay, we're back into some of those waters of games 10 and games 8, where, remember, Fabi had a queenside lockdown, which was much to his benefit, and it was only later when things got really crazy on the king side that Magnus got back into the game. Right.
That was looking good for Fabi at first.
Yeah.
But what about playing the knight the other way with the e4 and knight e5?
Sorry, so we have this position.
So like after knight a4,
you
bishop
like
e7,
knight a4? Yes.
Knight b6, rook b8, or rook d8, whatever.
Okay.
B8.
Okay, I'll go rook d8.
Okay,
sure.
rook d8, and then after, what were you saying, bishop?
You know me, I like to protect my pawns.
So you're just playing g3, right?
Yeah, I was.
So,
yeah.
And then you were playing knight
Here
f8, or I was thinking e4. What about e4?
Yeah, here I'm not sure about the knight f8 maneuver.
Because I want to play knight e5, give myself the chance of it attacking or defending with knight d7.
I'm 100% with you on this. I see that the knight on e5, by the way, is played in like game 6 and game 8, with the pawn on e4 is definitely the way to play. I mean, this is a very logical flow for both players. I'm still having a lot of problems with my queen on b4. It doesn't feel like the queen really belongs on.
And if queen a4 check, I'm just chilling with king
Yeah.
f8, by the way.
Okay.
Which seems like a move you like.
Well, I like queen a4 check if I can get the guy to move his king. I mean, okay, I agree with you. It may not be that bad. You'll play knight e5 and g6 and your castle by hand.
Yes.
Okay. But this is a fascinating game.
Can we go back?
Oh, of
I want
course.
to take a look
It
at
is. Yeah,
another
much like
line.
game 10.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, no, go forward. Knight a4.
Knight a4.
Bishop e7, knight b6, rook d8.
Yeah.
What is the plan, although it looks discoordinated for a moment, now I'm looking at it, it could be a problem, of rook c1.
Oh, boy.
I'm going
I know what you're doing.
all the way in. There's something I don't like about it, though, and that is when I play c5 takes, I'm not worried about that. You can have that anytime you want. But what I'm worried about is if I play c5 and you take, and I play bishop takes, now my bishop is pinned. And that I am concerned about. But I'll fix that. The engine really doesn't like what I'm doing, so I suspect this is a problem for now. And maybe I mistimed playing this way.
Man, the engine, my engine just dropped off the planet.
Well, the reason why is I opened up the game and I'm not developed at all, so I'm afraid there's going to be other problems that are going to pop up.
Oh, it's because of rook c8.
But rook
You
c8
can't play
looks
bishop
like one
e3
of
because
them.
the bishop takes b4.
But what about?
Because rook, and
there's
then, oh yeah, right.
Well, no, I mean, maybe it's a very good exchange sacrifice.
So bishop
Oops.
e3, bishop e3 never works because of bishop takes b4 check.
Right, so you got a double pin working right now, cross pin.
Yeah.
So not a true cross pin, but a nice double pin happening in this position. So
This is the crossover dribble where you break your
but-
ankle.
right, you
Queen
went through.
c7, I mean, Maurice is right, though. Queen c7 kind of induces white to think about executing rook c1 at the right moment.
Yeah.
Right,
doesn't
but
it?
no, rook c, no, not rook c1, c5 at the
Well, right,
right
rook
moment.
c1
So
and
I don't want to play c5
yeah.
yet. I
Right.
want to go back a move. Go back all the way before I played c5, right here.
Yeah.
Now it's my move, yeah?
Yeah.
So if I play bishop e2 here,
Could you have done c5 without knight b6?
Well,
Like with your knight on a4, maybe?
Hold on. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, sorry. So first of all, seriously, if you go bishop e2,
no, I want to play rook c1, then bishop e2.
okay, so rook. Okay, sorry. Okay, so you want to play rook c1, yes, and after rook c1, Gosh, I really want to take this pawn.
I know you do. You greedy.
Man, every fiber. of
I'm
my-
sacking as soon as you do it, or something.
So you're trying something besides c5 here? Slow down, bishop e2, then c5?
Every fiber of my being wants to capture.
Well, once
this
I play
pawn.
bishop e2, knight takes h4, you're running knight g2 check.
That's
Yeah.
precisely. Yeah,
So then
I'm
you're
winning a
winning.
pawn.
But are you
and I got
really?
it.
But are you really? That's the question.
I'm winning
Let's
a
go.
pawn
Let's go.
and-
Let's go. Let's see it. Bishop e2, knight h4.
Bishop e2. You really want me to take this pawn?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
You know, it's pawns. Who cares? Anyway, it's not my pawn. But.
Yeah, you're right. You know, that's what.
It's just Magnus's pawn.
Exactly.
Okay, now,
No,
can you-
Bobby's, right.
Now let's
Sorry.
see. Now let's go.
Knight
Wait, if
takes
I sack
g2
and
is
play
scary.
Knight takes g2 definitely is scary, because then I'm taking off that dark square
No,
bishop.
I'm not going to allow knight
Which
g2.
is
I have
the-
two. All right, I'm going to just give my general
Please,
thoughts.
please, please.
the
You guys can
hero.
help me out.
Right.
My one thought I have is rook takes on h4, followed by c5, hitting your bishop and breaking through.
First of all, you're surrounded by hyenas. We're not here to help you out. We're here to jump on you. We're leaving your pieces on free. Okay, C5. No, okay, so it's an exchange sacrifice. You got some ideas.
But don't we have that takes on C5, Bishop E7 stuff again? Isn't that always annoying?
Whoa. Okay, so hold on. What do you want, Jen? You want to take on C5 and that Bishop E7?
Yeah, the bishop coming back to E7.
The bishop.
Oh, you're taking with the bishop.
Jennifer says Bishop E7 and this pin is lights out.
Or rook takes C5, bishop. Well, I don't know if that's good or not.
C5.
I might have something better.
Bishop E7.
Maybe,
you got the same.
Yeah.
Bishop takes B4 check business.
And bishop coming back to A5.
This is too much.
Sometimes.
I'm convinced that this is not good.
Okay.
Okay, now let's go back to my main move. I just had to look at that sacrifice.
Right.
Now, what happens on King F1?
King F1. Now, we're pawn grubbers over here.
Yeah.
So we're thinking to grab some pawns.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, you are
Looks like you're trying to grab more than a pawn there.
Greedy
Yeah.
for real now. Now, both your bishops are hanging? Is this what's going to happen?
You're saying I set myself up for
You
this.
mean minors, both of our minors, right?
No, both
Okay, I see.
No, I wanted to sack on H4 and then have both bishops put on
I see
C5.
what you're saying.
But let's
Okay.
see the line. Let's just see the line. You backed up. You backed up too soon.
Sure.
Bishop back. Bishop E4. Now, am I supposed to play C5 or sack? If I play C5, I have nothing. So if I sack,
as this position continues to heat up, guys, we're going to take a quick break so we can have Gary Kasparov.
just getting good.
He's going to join us. Well, trust me, when Gary gets into this position, it's going to get even more great.
The heck with Gary. Come on. We're having too much fun.
Yeah, once Gary gets in, he's going to refute all of Fabi's moves.
All of our analysis.
Well, thank you very much for joining us for the first hour, but it's going to get even better as this position critical to the World Championship heats up. We have Gary Kasparov on the other side of the break.
All righty.
A moment comes in chess when you need to test yourself at a different level. Chess 24 Premium offers the tools that you need to reach your maximum potential. From hundreds of interactive video lessons to becoming part of the Chess 24 community. You can analyze with friends or coach your students live. You get 24/7 coverage of chess news and events, access to premium analysis and commentary, and the chance to interact with grandmasters and other top players and coaches. Get advice from the best and even challenge them to a battle. Be the best chess player you can be. It's time to level up your game with Chess 24 Premium membership.
Healthcare in America is changing, evolving, and we're helping lead the transformation. Ascension is made up of physicians and other caregivers called to deliver compassionate, personalized care for all. As one of the largest providers of care in the country, our patients benefit from collaboration between hospitals, medical practices, and healthcare innovators nationwide. Ascension's faith-based heritage means we have a moral obligation to serve everyone, especially those who are struggling. Last year, we provided almost $2 billion in care for people living in poverty and for programs to help them. Whether it's in a hospital, a neighborhood clinic, a senior living facility, or at home, Ascension's care providers value every aspect of our patients' lives and health. We listen with respect to ensure every person we serve gets the right care for them. Personalized, compassionate, that's Ascension.
our World Chess Championship coverage where Fabiano Caruana, St. Louis's own, is deadlocked with the reigning king, Magnus Carlsen, and we are in the final classical game of the match. Perhaps the final game. Either man wins this game, they take the crown instantly. It's instant death, but instant victory at stake. And we've got a couple moves from when we had the break in this super dynamic position, Yaz. Take us through it. Or Maurice is ready to, actually.
All right, well, we'll jump over it because controversy is definitely broken out on the set. Maurice, you've lost your jaw.
You got it. I'm picking my jaw up. You see, my Yasser is... we're in tune right there.
Yeah,
That's good. I'm glad you caught that one. Right. Picking my jaw up off the floor. That's what I was doing. F3. First of all, G3 was played solid. Bishop E7 instantly. F3 on the board by Fabiano. When you see it, you say, okay, we're going to we're going to try to justify this move. Weakening this side of the board. It was already getting a little bit porous over there. Now playing this move, F3. Remember, we all learned, develop your pieces, get castled, make sure you have a safe place for your king. This king, we weren't too thrilled by putting it on the queen side, even more so with this B5 opportunity at any moment to be played. We thought we'd have safety on the king side. But guess what? F3 says, no, I'm not even interested in long-term safety for my king. I'm playing now for squares, controlling this G4 square, controlling, more importantly, the E4 square as well. At some point, he could also flick in G4 if you castle yourself. This is super sharp stuff, and I can tell you, I'll bet, I'm not going to give away the house exactly, but it'll be at least 3 of the rooms. That dude did not look at F3. I don't think anybody on the team of Magnus Carlsen looked at the move F3 and said, principled way to proceed in this position. They looked at normal developing bishop moves, for sure, maybe something to land on B6, but that's got to be your 6th, 7th, 8th try. The guy wants to play F3, he can go right ahead. F3? Talk about sharpening the battle intensely. I'm terrified for something landing on F4 eventually. This pawn especially, landing on F4, if this bishop can move and you could get it going. This seems like a major decision. It is a major decision, certainly. As Sam Shanklin says in his book, pawns don't go backwards. All right? You've put it there now. What is going on in this crazy position?
Well, this is the exact kind of move that I felt Fabiano was going to have to take in this game. It's a double-edged, really, really risky move with grounded in positional fundamentals. If we take the move back for a moment, before we play the move F3, we had already been discussing pawn sacrifice ideas of E5, E4, followed by knight on G6 to E5, when suddenly Black is getting his whole army coordinated. Especially this knight on G6. It really stands off sides. And this move F3 just stops Black's idea of E5, E4, and knight on G6 to E5. I'm going to invite the greatest of all time, Mr. Garry Kasparov, to join us, Jennifer, to discuss this move F2, F3, and whether he likes it or not.
Welcome back to the show, the one and only Garry Kasparov.
Yes, thank you very much. So actually, my congratulations to you and to all the chess fans, because this is a real game.
Yes, it is, Garry.
Against the expectations of many that the game would be an easy draw, it's a fight.
Absolutely.
And again, some of our predictions, they have materialized. Magnus followed the same line, and he just tried to make an improvement. And again, Fabi is definitely playing a sharp line. But yeah, I heard you talking about F3. Tell me, because I didn't understand why Fabiano didn't play Bishop G5, forcing F6.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing that, you know, it's instead of forcing F6, which is a weakness. I mean, it's no matter what you say, it's F6 is a weakness. It creates a potential weakness on E6. Obviously, one day pawn can go on F5, but still, with pawn on pawn F6 limits Black's ability to create threats. It cuts bishop from E7. So instead of bishop E3, I think bishop G5, F6, bishop E3 was almost natural move.
Well, Garry, I have to say the Indians give queen B8 as as the more salient move, not the move move f6.
Yes, but yeah, okay, fine. What's your next move? I play g3, let's say.
Right.
Or whatever. I make any move, bishop e2. I mean, whatever. If I make any move, so what's your next move?
It's a6. A6 was the main line with knight c3, and then bishop to e7 was given.
By the way,
Now,
knight f8 was played by Magnus.
Take on e7 and play probably c5. I think white has a very comfortable game.
Except, Gary, I know exactly what you're saying, and we saw this position by Sessi, and Sessi threw out this move, rook c8, and basically said, you know, you got into c5, you traded bishops, you compromised black's king, but somehow the computer's happy with black. It was crazy. We're getting confused.
Yes, we're still talking about two humans, great humans, but
Correct.
Like chess. So I'm just all I'm saying is, you know, it would be far more natural to play bishop g5 because look, queen b8 is a machine move.
Correct.
So again, Magnus played very quickly, so I assume he was prepared for bishop g5, and probably Caruana's decision to play bishop e3 was to actually take Magnus away from his preparation.
Main preparation.
That's my only guess because Magnus spent no time, so a few seconds by making the first 10 or so moves.
Absolutely.
Gary, your take on f2, f3. Your first knee-jerk response. I mean, we've got a game. We've got a great game in shaping up. But f2, f3, do you like the move?
In general, no, because it creates too many potential weaknesses.
Okay.
Potential weaknesses. It's Maurice just mentioned that, you know, the whole idea of actually holding black on g6, black knight on g6, can fail because the moment black pawn shows up on f4, white position collapses. But as you pointed out a minute ago, that there was another way to activate the knight, to play e4, knight e5. So it's like, you know, it's a trade. It's a very tough trade. Either you stop e4, knight e5, or you create a weakness which could potentially expose. But trying to keep black knight, out of the game is important. Though this knight can go on f8 and d7 now.
And it did.
Which is actually
what
what has happened. Knight f8 was Magnus's reaction to the move f3.
And still playing very quickly.
I wouldn't have played f3. You know, that's my guess. So this is, I don't know. Maybe I would have go queen b6. Maybe I don't exchange queens. I don't know. But f3. I mean, I still wanted to play bishop e2 and just potentially attack pawn on h5.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, but I agree with you that, you know, e4 is a threat because knight goes on e5, and from e5 it can go to f3 and d3.
Exactly.
So that's why I would strongly suggest that bishop g5, even if that's a move Magnus expected, could be a better choice.
After knight f8, it looks like Magnus is still playing extremely quickly. Do you think this is just his clear plan, or he's still in his actual preparation?
No, I don't think it's preparation, but those moves are very natural. For Magnus, is just it's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. So he always looks for most effective ways to improve his position, and he looks at every piece that he doesn't like and just finds immediately the way to improve to bring it to a more sort of productive square. Right. And the knight g6, f8, d7 is so natural, and then knight goes on c5. And it kills white's main idea to play c5. I think black is absolutely fine now. I would prefer black position if you ask me. So because I see no real play for white. So I don't know what white can do.
Yeah, concretely speaking, the queen on b4, if you don't get to play c4, c5 quickly, as you had demonstrated in one line a moment ago, it feels to me like the queen on b4 just ends up being isolated and not in the game. Gary, just to take Fabiano's position for a second, I'll play the move knight e4. I'll try to justify putting the pawn on f3 for a moment.
Engine's first choice, by the way, knight e4 recommended.
And I'm
with the idea of playing
assuming
bishop to d3 after knight d7.
Yeah, I'm assuming knight d7, right?
Knight d7 is fine. Yes.
Yeah, and I was going to go bishop d3. I'm trying to make a
Maybe
virtue.
maybe g6 now first.
G6.
I'm preparing to take on e4, and then to put knight on c5. So that's the. So after bishop e4, what will you take with bishop or pawn?
Well, here my biggest problem is actually making a move and determining what I want to do with my king.
Knight e4 on the board, by the way.
Knight e4 on the board.
Your king should go long. I mean, that's probably.
Okay, well then I've got to do.
That's the only chance to create real tension, because going short is just you don't have any counterplay.
Okay, so I'll go long. I'll take your advice, Gary.
Yeah, so that's interesting. By the way, just going back just for a moment, I don't know, instead of f3, so don't you think that, queen b6 was totally useless?
Queen b6, it was a key alternative.
Yeah, just exchange a queen. I understand that, again, you don't want to exchange queens, it's the last game, but still, we're not talking about the last game. We're talking about, the objective quality of the moves.
Exactly. Well, you put me on the spot there, Gary. I'm not sure if I like e4 and knight e5 when I don't have queens on the board.
But you exchange queens, yes?
Yeah, once you've traded the queens, I'm not a big believer in the attack anymore. Maybe I would try the same strategy as Magnus did in the game. Bring the knight to d7. Yeah,
but at the end game, I think probably it's better for white, because then you don't have this. My king can be on d2. I play b4 just to meet a5 with a3. Bishop comes on e3, and I think white. And then I can play probably f3 and knight e4. I can do the same stuff, but without queens.
Yes,
the Indians actually think this
in white's favor, because
slight edge for white.
One of white's problem is the king.
Yes.
So exchanging queens, we solve the problem.
Well, I like the move queen b6 for all kinds of points of view. First of all, I'm not a big fan of the queen on b4 to begin with. I just think it's in the way of b4 and it's not doing anything useful. Secondly, I really like the idea of what you've just suggested. Trade the queens and solve the problem with the white king. White's king.
The king can stay on d2 if the queens are off the board.
If the queens are off the board. All right. Let's just see what we've got. Do we have knight d7, Maurice, after knight d4?
Not as yet, but I will interject, by the way.
Yes, please.
First of all, Gary, your queen b6, the Indians agree with you. Slight edge for white. Definitely slight edge for white. However, the Indians also like Fabi's plan. They think knight e4 in this position and keeping queens on, especially knight d7, bishop d3, is still fine for white. Now, you suggested the move g6, Gary, in this position, and the Indians now giving the move rook c1, saying we're going straight ahead with our plan. If you take on e4, take back with a pawn on e4 and play that kind of King's Indian type of formation.
Yeah.
I should point out the move bishop g6 is also playable with the threat of f5, and the Indians don't worry about this threat as fast as it might be coming and feel that white will be able to manage that position as well.
Yeah, but wait, Maurice. But it's just this, rook c1, bishop takes e4, f takes e4. And then I just, bring my king on. Okay, I can probably do a castle, short castle, of course, or bring my king on g7. King f8, king g7 even, I don't know. And then it seems to me that, I'll block it. I mean, I can hardly imagine you making any progress on the queen side, though you have semi-open f-file. Maybe that will give you some chances.
So with a bit of a queen d2, maybe b4, if you can toss it in.
I could play
c5
going.
I'm way behind you. Give me some moves. Bishop d3. What's the good move for black?
g6.
I don't know.
G6.
It's not really clear, by the way.
And rook c1, and you guys were looking at bishop e4. And we were recapturing with the pawn.
Correct.
Were you dropping a knight on me?
Maybe I should stop. Maybe I should play b6. Or even, maybe I can play knight c5.
Well, Mvia would like such a position.
I play knight c5 actually. I don't want to either b6 or knight c5. I don't want to take on e4 too early. Why should I to open f file?
Exactly.
So why knight c5?
Attacking the bishop.
You
on
mean
d2.
before bishop takes e4?
Yeah, I would. Yes,
He wants to play without bishop takes e4. Yes, that's his suggestion.
Immediately?
Yes. Why not? It's a legal move, yes.
Yes, I know. Last time we checked, the FIDE rules allowed it. Okay.
So knight c5 here, dc5, queen
D5.
a4 check,
Check, bishop b7.
bishop back, and then queen somewhere like
We could go. Okay.
wow, queen d2 immediately.
I'm a little bit afraid of e4.
Yeah, maybe bishop d6 first, and then I don't know. I can maybe even do a long castle now. Your king is still on e1.
This one,
Look, it's a sharp game.
Bishop
It's just a
d6
very
might
sharp
allow
game.
bishop takes
Which
on.
is again, I said it's
on
great
G6
news that
now,
game will be sharp.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
the chances that
Bishop takes g6 because queen f6 jack.
But okay, castle.
Yeah.
Castle, I might play
Sure.
b4 just for fun.
What? What? The World Championship? You're just going to throw out a gambit like that? What?
Well, he played b4 before.
A wing's gambit. Oh, my word.
Black does have to react after b4, so he can play f5 and start playing it.
Ignore,
It's
ignore
again,
those ideas.
it's a
That's crazy stuff.
b4 f5. Oh boy.
B4 f5.
If we
is
thought
the
game
response.
10 was tense.
This is amazing.
We have a little bit of fun.
Well,
Well, it's not going to be easy.
Talk about ratcheting up the tension in the match.
Bishop d3 was played, by the way. We have that move on the board.
We are closing in on our position now.
yeah.
Sorry, have they played
Yeah,
knight
that's-
d7?
that's-
Knight
yeah,
e4, knight
yeah,
d7,
yeah,
and bishop
now this is
d3.
What did you say,
Again,
Gary? Sorry, we were.
It's not about setting up a bet, but what do you think the chances that the match will be over today?
Whew.
Which means one player wins.
50-50.
I would say even more than 50-50.
Because of the position.
Yeah, of
Because of
course.
position.
His position.
That's the
Nuts.
position, and it seems that again, I think the players are engaged, so it'll be a fight.
Yeah.
Okay, of
Carl-
course, could be draw as we saw in game 10. Any game can end in draw. So, but I think it's a very good chance that is just the pressure could play a trick on one player or another or both.
Apparently, the markets this morning said 2-1 that it was going to be a draw. But of course, they didn't know that we were going to have this position on the board.
Exactly. I
Well,
thought it was
again, as we
about
discussed, it's just when Magnus played in most of the games, Magnus played with black. They had very sharp positions, and especially in the last two games, 8 and 10, and providing Magnus, was about to choose the same line. The fight was almost guaranteed. So that's why I think 2-1 was a wrong bet.
Yeah.
Gary, in decisive games like this one, you've been in multiple matches having to deal with critical games where I think there was a quote I heard. They called it a squeaky bum. Where
Squeaky bum.
Squeaky bum. Where you start feeling nervous. This is like the money game.
Right.
What are your thoughts going into a game like this one? How do you prepare for the greatest game of your life? The way Fabi had to go like right now.
Maurice, I have to tell you that I never was in the same situation because all the decisive games I played, they were in the match that was the last game of the match, period.
Right.
So that's why either I had to win to retain the title or to draw to retain the title or it was just the last game. So whatever your plan was for the game, that was it. So you couldn't actually think, oh, if I make a draw, it goes to tiebreak.
Right.
So that creates a very
Worse.
Yeah, no, there was no tiebreak.
No, he's saying it's an all or nothing game.
But I'm saying for you it was even more all or nothing.
This is not all or nothing because the draw
Right.
is the match continues.
Exactly.
So that's why both players they have in mind that that's taking too much risk might be premature because there's still tiebreak. Though I think Magnus is a clear favorite, but still it's at the end of the day if Fabi has to make a choice between suicidal over just a risky option or a quiet one, I think he will go for the latter because again, there's no need for him to take the same risk as if they play the old-fashioned match where the world champion retain his title in case of a tie.
Right.
So still, the question is still there for you. How did you get ready emotionally, psychologically for that kind of all or nothing battle?
look, it's there's no universal advice. It's it's up to you actually to make yourself ready, and that's what makes the difference between the very good players and the world champions.
And I'm still asking you, how did you do it? Forget about how the rest of us mortals would do. How did you do it?
I felt quite comfortable because I mean comfortable is the wrong word, but I felt that it was a moment where I could test my character, and it's all I did before. So for me it was a great opportunity to show some of my best abilities. So that's the way I treated the game.
Wow. Yeah, I remember reading a book from you, Gary, where you talked about Seville and preparing for Game 24, a must-win game, and you played cards the night before because at that point you already played Anatoly Karpov so many times you had prepared for him. There was nothing you could do in the next 12 hours that was going to change anything. Might as well play some cards and have some fun and relax.
Yes, but it's also at the end of the day, what I know about these final games, it's still the mistakes are being made, and you have to make sure you don't make the last mistake. So, and that's why even in this game, so the mistakes will be made, and let's see who blinks last.
Exactly. Now, again, referring right back to the position, Gary, Bishop D3. A moment ago, you had almost crept in a slight bias for black position after this.
I'm reconsidering.
Exactly.
Reconsidering. I played this kind of positions in Sicilian mainly from the black side, so that's why you can hardly blame me for my prejudices because I used to look at it from the opposite side, so from the black side.
Right. Absolutely.
It's sharp. Again, there's plenty of play there. I don't know. Actually, Magnus has to make some tough choices now because either he takes on e4 or he goes on knight c5 to this structure. But he has to make a very important strategic choice now.
Yeah.
Its position is highly unusual. So because it looks like white position is very it's almost exposed. So there's all pawns moved and a lot of weaknesses, but still white has some control of the more strong position in the center and a little bit more space. And black has to think about, creating counterplay. Right. Plus, being on e1, it doesn't have to go one or another. It could go to short castle. It could go to long castle. It could stay on e2 even.
Gary, I'm curious about this line.
There's no. It's not an immediate threat. So black has to make some tough choices now, and I'm curious what will be Manuel's choice.
Could we try a couple of moves and just tell me if I'm crazy? Because to me, if I'm playing this with white, the thing I'm most concerned about is that f-pawn's charging down the board. But apparently, it's possible to fight against this move. But what if you play a secure move like bishop to g6 with the idea of playing for f5 and maybe f4 or maybe even the sacrifice? F5 with e4 sacking to put the knight on e5. It looks crazy, but it looks like the kind of fun you could have with the black pieces.
I lost the connection for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying, Gary,
what I was saying when the connection when this was cut. So it's tough for Magnus because there are no safe choices. Each choice carries certain positional risk. And that's why again now it's interesting because he put us knight on d7 and it's a choice, either he goes knight c5 or he takes on e4 or he goes bishop g6 hoping for f5 one day.
And that's what Gary, that's where when we lost you I wanted to go down that line, the move bishop to g6. What do you feel about this, amping up the pressure on that side and preparing f5? What do you think about this plan? And we take a look at a couple of moves.
Yeah, but f5, okay, f5 white knight goes on g5. So then you probably go knight c5, yes?
I was even looking to somehow play the move e4. I'm not sure if in the combination with a capture on g5 first.
So bishop g6 sounds like a very decent option because it's again now white has to make next move. And
I tried castles, just putting something on the board so you guys could throw the patties at one another.
No, but long castle b5. Long castle.
No, he's trying short castles.
Short castle.
Bishop g6 short castle.
And if in case of f5 knight g5, Maybe you want to rethink
Maybe castle
F5.
first. Maybe castle
but,
first.
But after short castle, black also should do short castle.
Right. And now white needs a move.
Yeah.
Because F5 is definitely on the menu.
F5 and then knight C5. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Queen D2.
All right. Now the fun starts.
We're already in the fun. I mean,
What happened? Well,
now
okay,
it's like-
let's play F5. Let's see what happens.
Five,
F5.
knight G5.
Yeah.
Knight
F5,
G5.
knight
Kill
G5.
that knight. Our bishop's bad anyway. We don't need it.
You take on G5.
Yeah. Now, do we play E4 and knight E5? Is that just random?
E4. Look, you play E4. I play bishop E2. I don't have to take. Your bishop on G6 looks a bit odd to me.
Looks a little buried there, all right. Still not
I'm
the
not-
end of the
Finally get our knight to
world. It's still not
E5.
the end of the world. I mean, knight E5, not bad.
By the way, you could take on F3 and play knight E5 and get that with tempo.
And then the rook goes on F4 or C3, and my bishop goes on F4, and still your bishop on G6 is a bit odd.
Still, the bishop looks strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Okay,
Gary,
but-
this is like.
because rook E8, knight G4, it's just, it's still a very sharp game.
But Gary,
mess.
for me, if I'm Fabiano, I'm super, super happy because I've got to say, I feel like I want to avoid the tiebreaker. I really do.
By
And
the way,
I've got a
Magnus-
position that's double-edged.
Magnus played castle.
Magnus played,
Castle.
he castled immediately.
Yeah, he still probably wants to keep both options.
He castled short. Pardon me. Let me correct myself. He castled short,
Castled short.
Jennifer?
It looks like I don't see that yet, but it looks like
He
that's
has.
what's going to happen.
Okay.
Okay, so
Wait.
castles,
I don't have castles on my board.
but Gary does. So I believe in Gary.
I trusted you.
Yeah, speaking of which, Fabi gave us all a little bit of a scare, Gary, earlier in the game when we wondered if there was any chance he was going to go for a repetition early in the game. Did you have any doubts?
No, I have no doubts about it. So if he had his choice by move 30, I think, that he could go for that. But to do it at, move 10,
Yeah.
it would be basically, it would more capitulation. It's not just, considering the fact that Magnus is a favorite in rapid, but blowing up his chances with white without even trying, that will be morally devastating.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly.
It's a right choice, and I had no doubt that he would consider. Actually, I thought he would be playing bishop G5, so that's why. I didn't understand why he spent so much time. That's a very natural move, but again, he played bishop B3, and now we have something else. So,
Gary, if I could ask you a question for a second, and it has to do with preparation. And I just want to bring you back to this moment in time when H4, H5. So H5 was, to quote, the theoretical novelty. From this position onwards, how many moves of preparation do you think Magnus gave?
We're getting, by the way,
Sorry.
What's going on?
we're getting a move that's
Is this-
very surprising. So let's double check
Let's
that.
double check.
Because maybe
this.
that
You
was the
have this-
castles.
What I have the move rook H2 after castles on the board.
That's
And I'm
in
just
Sessi?
checking. That's Sessi. I'm also getting updated rook H2 as the next move.
And that's
and it is
correct.
being confirmed
It has
that
been
rook H2,
no,
which
but it's his intention is very clear now. He wants to play long castle and to meet B5 with rook C2.
So you see rook H2
But
as a defensive.
He's planning long castle. He's planning long castle and rook C2. Yeah, that's very clear.
Wow.
but wow, with all this energy coming on the other side, rook H2, what a move.
But it's look, if he plans long castle, that's a natural. He wants to make sure that B5 will be met by rook C2.
Okay, we get the idea.
Long castle is met by B5.
We get the idea, though. We get the idea from
it
you.
good?
But is it a good idea? Because he's committed now. He was relatively safe on G1, but he's decided to go all in with the king on C2 on C1. That seems super sharp as a decision.
Look, you remember we talked many times about it. You keep saying safer. He doesn't care maybe about being safe. This game decides whether you'll be world champion or not.
Right.
And if he believes that he's fighting overwhelming odds in rapid, he doesn't care about safety.
Exactly.
He's playing the game and he wants, to use every chance he has in this game.
But is this risky now? Is this risky? Remember you talked about it being an
Yes,
all-in
yes.
game.
Look, Morris, game of chess is risky.
Oh, Gary, there's risk and there's risk.
If you don't like risk, you can repeat the moves Queen A4, Queen B4. No, it's a risky game.
Right.
But that's a World Championship match, and it's as you have been saying all of three, for last an hour and a half. It might be most important game in his life.
Absolutely.
And he's willing to take chances.
That's a baller move. I'm sorry, Rook H2 to say yes, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to castle queenside. I'm going to go into the teeth of the attack potentially.
My only question is now this is what happens if Magnus takes on E4?
Takes on E4. Yeah. I'm in this case tempted to take with the pawn, Gary.
Knight F6.
Knight F6. Okay, I thought you were going to go for C5, but you're actually heading for G4 now that my rook is committed itself. Oh, boy.
So rook over to C2 anyway.
And knight, yes, rook to C2. I like that move.
Knight G4, Bishop G1, yes?
I got Bishop B6.
Yeah, Bishop B6. Yeah, of course, yes.
A tempo.
I take it back. No, that's the, look, then Rook H2, it's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. I love it.
It reminds me of
I
certain...
wouldn't be surprised if, again, I don't know, it's the, probably B5 is a little bit too much.
It reminds me of this Rook H2, Rook C2 of certain French defense shifts where you've already played F4. Another
But
question.
what about
Gary?
Knight C5 now?
Yeah. Another question for me, Gary, is what about the immediate Knight C5 with the Rook on H2?
Exactly, yeah, because then potentially E4 might be, with king on Rook H2. We can probably try to use this diagonal. So if you take on C5, D5, take on D3 and E4.
Yes, exactly. Even, E4 or, as you just said, take E4 with ideas of queen takes G3 check.
Uh-oh.
There's another dangerous idea, by the way.
What's
I
it
wanna
real
point out.
dangerous?
This is dangerous.
What's that?
Back that knight up. In this position, Bishop G6.
Bishop G6, yeah.
And this is to fight against castles, because if you castle now, we could continue queenside castle, F5.
Right.
And now your knight G5 is met by trade. And when I play E4 now, you're not so happy about that rook on H2 because you were playing Bishop E2 before.
Yeah.
And Bishop E2, if you play it now, your rook on H2 looks ridiculous.
Right.
Also, he could trade on F3 twice and then play knight E5. Continue this way. This is more positionally founded, by the way.
Yeah.
Knight E5, and now you got to play Bishop E2, and now your rook on H2 really looks random. And when rook C8 shows up on the board, all of a sudden it's only one person who's doing anything in that position.
No,
and
this
this one is scary.
That's not
And well
nice.
positionally founded. Nothing strange for black there. Just a normal straight play trying to exploit this rook H2 move. Well, just playing normal chess and showing the rook H2 move as flawed. And this looks dangerous to me, just dropping back to play for F5.
How about G4?
Woo!
Well,
okay, now. Wake
I'm
us all
committed.
up.
I'm committed to castling long, and
my
that's been the
goodness.
case for some time, Maurice. So I'm not worried about G4 once I've burned my bridges. I'm going to castle long.
You didn't just burn the bridges. You got the sledgehammer out. Beating it down.
There goes the cabin, huh?
Wow, G4. Rook H2 and G4 as your moves?
Dude, I got to stop F5. You panicked me. You showed me F5 and scared me.
After knight C5, G4, you take with a bishop, yes?
After knight C5,
You have to take with a bishop.
I have to. Yes, Gary, you're right. I have to take.
And then you go back on C3, maybe with queen or D2, and then long castle, and you are fine.
I'm dreaming about putting my king into safety. You're right.
But it looks like Maurice is trying something different.
Okay,
Well,
Maurice.
you don't want to know the next move. It's a very Kasparovian move. In fact, with Bishop G6, G4.
But it's a positional move because if F5 is a threat, so you have to protect your knight. It's basically saving your position in the center. Because
Correct.
if you allow f5, then everything collapses. So that's why g4 probably is the only move.
Well, Gary, but I'm going to play a move that I've seen you play millions of times before. Okay, maybe not millions, but the kind of thing when I was studying your books, The Test of Time, and all those great books you wrote, that could drop on this board is the move b5.
Yeah, that's what I said,
Yeah.
b5, and the Indians love that move and already giving black a serious advantage because white is being torn apart at the seams as the structure is just collapsing. Where do you put your king now that b5 is on the board?
I don't know. Look, again, 10 minutes ago, let me remind you, I told you that I like black.
Yes, you did. We're going to play the tape to prove
I
it.
thought Gary was going to say 10
Hey,
minutes ago.
Because again, f3 it's a big choice, and
But Rook H2, it just keeps amping up. He's trying to prove that he can play slowly in a position that has pawn breaks for black. That f5 idea, b5.
Now it's again, obviously, if white can actually go long castle and then rook c2, then white has a great position. The problem is, in chess, you're always missing one tempo to be happy.
Right.
Oh,
For full happiness.
That could be the case.
I like that. Well, Gary wanted to trade queens earlier as white as well, right?
As white as well, yes, all that.
But I see this move, bishop g6, as being a fundamental question in the position. Why should I give up my two bishops for the knight on e4? Why don't I play for the f5, e4? As Gary said, the moment white played f3, white was always fearing an f5, f4, and in this position, it's the biggest challenge. And if I have to play g4, well, then this b5 and fire on board, right, Gary? Across every sector, the center, the king side, the queen side, we have enormous clash, and black looks more solid. His king is safe, or after all, king safety, very important in the opening.
Well, apparently in the Norway TV studio, when Magnus played b5 in game 10, they were also just like blown away. They thought that this was like an incredible move and that he was going to win.
Really?
Yes.
Whereas I thought the wing gambit b4 by Fabi was an incredible move, and that blew me away.
By the way, I'd like to add, just so that everybody can really be scared and worried for Fabi, the move rook c2, I tried to defend the position. I said, wait a minute, my rook's going to get caught on the H file, and I can get it over to c2 is what I want to do anyway, and I get to proceed with my plan if only I could just castle. The problem is f5, knight g5, and suddenly knight c5, and white is getting roasted in this position as the bishop is hanging. The rook is now exposed on the c2 square because anything like bishop to e2 just runs into f4. Sorry, you're going to die now. Oops. And if you play after knight c5, bishop takes c5, d takes c5, again you have threats you have to deal with. The bishop is hanging, e4 is coming. The queen is a problem on this square. You don't have time as e4 will blast open to the g3 point. I mean, you're in deep trouble in that line, but Magnus did not play bishop g6. Instead, he's played rook a to c8.
Whoa.
And I feel like Fabi's fans got to feel like he dodged a bullet. Even if this move is good, that bishop g6 move looks so principled, but rook a c8 is on the board.
Wow. We have rook on f8 or rook on a8?
I currently have rook a8 to c8
Yeah.
is the
Rook
move that was
a8,
played.
c8. Okay.
Well, long castle.
Yeah, that's the question, right?
Long castle now.
If white gets the time to
Long castle.
put his king into safety on b1, well, for sure Magnus had prepared rook c8, long castles, b5, rook c2. Okay.
At least my king is my king is safe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that I'm very happy, but it's much better than what we saw 2 minutes ago.
No, nobody's doubting you there.
Engine still giving though this idea a stamp of approval instead of playing b5, playing bishop g6 and rear up now for this move f5 with tactics. Bishop g6 again. At least your king is over there, but are you really safe? Because f5 is coming.
Yeah.
And
Well-
it's not clear. It's not clear where White's play is. By the way, it should be pointed out. Because you can take in this line, Yaz. You could take. Well, how'd you get your king to move?
He played king b1.
It was like a trick. You, just you got in that.
After bishop g6, I went king b1.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I didn't go rook c2.
Yeah, but look, bishop g6 is not not the same effect because I could play rook c2.
Exactly.
And f5 now g5 now c5. I can take on c5 because my king is already on c1. So
Right.
rook c8 does no good to blacks because e4 is no longer a deadly threat since queen takes g3 is just it's not a check. My king
Right.
is already in safety.
But can I take on g5 and then play e4?
No, I take bishop c5. So how do you play? Bishop g5 check or
Let's say I just take Gary.
where?
Uh,
On
okay.
c5 or g5?
Queen takes c5.
No, then take queen takes c5. Queen takes c5.
Bishop takes g5,
H5,
hg5, rook c5. Yeah.
f4.
f4. You're really trying to kill my
Oh.
bishop, aren't you?
Maybe I can play b4 and c5 also. I mean, look, it's all of a sudden it's just.
No, that's not
You
good.
like it for white.
That's not a
yeah.
good way for white.
Plenty
That's-
of, I mean, it's a lot of game now.
No, black shouldn't be walking in. White shouldn't be. Black shouldn't be allowing this position.
But
Okay.
maybe instead of, I was saying after knight g5, just take right away and then play for e4. Bishop takes g5. After knight g5, bishop takes g5, bishop takes g5, e4.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Four, yes, but it's this. It's the e4. The f4 is a threat. Yes.
Hopefully,
Yeah, suddenly f4 becomes an idea. The knight goes to e5.
from black's
That's-
point of view.
There's still some stuff being thrown at white in that position.
Yeah.
He might be
White's
able to defend,
king.
but it's definitely stuff being thrown at him.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
and again,
Great stuff.
Magnus with a big time edge, so
What is the time
it seems like Magnus has an extra half hour or so, which could be very relevant in this situation, right?
We don't know absolutely, but Jennifer, just give us an idea.
Like 40 minutes to an hour and 10 approximately.
And they got to get to move 40 before they
Right,
get their
right.
bonus
And we're
time.
on move 21.
Wow. Okay. So significant edge, super sharp position. Man, Gary, this game 12 is living up to everything we could have possibly hoped for.
But you're shaking your head,
And we-
Gary. There's something in your face.
Not yet, because you hope for one result. For one. Yeah, it's a great game, but it's very dangerous for white. And again, let's go back. F3 is just was a very risky move because it weakened white's position.
Right.
Don't want to create weaknesses.
Yeah.
And as you can see, so many problems that white has been experiencing in all the lines that we've analyzed. They're connected to the fact that F3 this move created weakness on G3. It weakened the white position in the center, and it hasn't reached its goal of limiting black's counterplay. To the contrary, it created some more potential targets.
But that move rook h2, Gary, to me that seems like even more. If you're going to play f3, you're going all in with rook h2. You're saying, I will one day castle queenside and be okay. And it looks like that one day is proving to be very difficult to make arrive.
No, I think he's just trying to play the game is a bit it's too positional. So he just he looks it's again in ideal world he hopes to castle and put the rook on c2, but there's no ideal world.
That's right. Well, Gary, you look a little bit worried. Are you on Team Fabi?
No, I'm just I'm looking at the position. I'm trying to actually analyze it. So in my head, so look at the screen, and I don't know. As I said, I always prefer black, in this kind of pawn structure, and f3 and rook h2 don't bring any confidence.
Right.
In fact, you'd prefer to be black if you were playing this in a world championship match.
Even if I played Blitz games.
Gary, we want to thank you so very much for having joined us on this, the 12th and decisive game of the match. I'm assuming you're going to be around the whole of the day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if the game is a tie, so Meet again on the 28th.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a consolation.
That's something to look forward to. We would love to have you on the show if you're available.
Thank you so much, as always, for joining us, Gary.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you and bye-bye.
What a treat to have
Wow.
Gary Kasparov, the 13th world champion, joining us to talk about the position. Although, for Fabi fans, certainly his prognosis and his desire to play black here, not that inspiring. Well, not that it's not inspiring, but it's concerning.
Well, for sure, and he was very consistent too, wasn't he?
From the very beginning,
He was
there was
sort of
one
like
moment where
he really
wasn't.
liked the foundation
Yeah.
that black has, and he wasn't 100% sure. But once he saw the move F3, he just said, "Oh boy, black has these options, this option. He could play for B5. He can do this and this and this." He really liked Magnus.
But White did not have to castle. White didn't have to play the move Rook H2. And we're looking at this year, World Championship Day, as we have these two players. We already had Gary. We will have the player who actually defeated him to take away his title. Coming up next, Vladimir Kramnik. And Kramnik will have a thing or two to say about the Sveshnikov as well. But guys, I got to say, Rook H2. F3 was one thing.
Right.
F3 was loosey-goosey, positionally minded, grabbing the E4 square. There are arguments to say F3 was weakening, but there are also arguments to say it maintained the position control Black's setup so that he wasn't in any major danger White. But once you put the Rook on H2, you're basically, like you said, the ideal world. You're hoping, please one day, not please, actually, if you play Rook H2, you're saying, I am definitely castling queenside, and I'm definitely going to be able to play Rook C2, and you can't do anything about it. You don't have time to. That's going to be something that is debated if he loses this game as to why he played Rook H2. And he did, in fact, castle queenside, so that is on the board now. Rook H2, that controversial move, and he has now castled into the teeth of it, saying, I am going all in. This is, there's certain things that define a player as going to be the champion. It defines you. What kind of risk are you willing to take? Remember, Yasser, before this, I said to you, I like your argument about risk. What risk do you take to prove I'm the man now? I'm the top dog. I'm the number one player in the world. I don't care if you're going to look like you're attacking me. It looks like you're trying to steamroll, whatever. I'm willing to take this chance and go for it so that I can become the champ. This is Fabiano's moment right here with this move castles. And he's just daring Magnus. Will it pay off or will it fail miserably? Only time is going to tell on this one. But just an amazing moment as he takes the bull by the horns to say, I want to become champion, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to do it.
I love it. Game 12 is living up to expectations, but guess what? It gets even better as we have Vladimir Kramnik on the other side of the break. And I can't wait to hear how his opinion differs from Gary, because he is not Gary. You kind of expected that he would say, give me black, give me black, give me black, just like in Game 10. But remember when we had Anand on, the story was a little different. So where will Kramnik fall? What's your prediction?
I think he's going to team up with Gary.
Uh-oh.
But I do think this was the money move. Join us on the other side of the break to find out.
St. Louis University is celebrating its 200th anniversary. Offering world-class education in the heart of St. Louis, SLU attracts students and professors from around the globe. In 2015, SLU partnered with the St. Louis Chess Club to start a top-tiered collegiate chess team. On the very first year of the team's inception, SLU obtained second-best university at the Pan American Intercollegiate Chess Championships. Higher purpose, greater good. St. Louis University.
You may have heard about St. Louis's world-class museums. Art, history, science, even magic. But you may not know we have an entire museum dedicated to play, with a 10-story slide and a Ferris wheel on top. Don't let all this family fun slide by you. Whose kids it is? St. Lou is always exploring. Anybody?
welcome back to our World Championship coverage. We are in the money game. 5.5 points for our American challenger, Fabiano Caruana. 5.5 points for the reigning champion, Magnus Carlsen. But the game couldn't be more thrilling. Yeah, as opposite side castles, lots for black to play for, and if white weathers the storm, could be positionally advantageous for Fabi. What's your take now after we have gotten a couple more moves in?
Exactly. Well, when we left it just before break time. I was very, very relieved to see this move. Castles long by Fabiano. We thought that the move rook on A8 to C8, that lost the tempo kind of move, just allowing white to get his king into play. Bishop G6, this was by far the most contentious and challenging move in the position, as black just brings his bishop to a protected square, but more importantly, readies the blow F5 to chase this knight out of the center and then follow it up with ideas like E4, and there's always a B5. So that was why Fabi played the move Rook C2, protecting his king, stopping the move B5 because there would be a capture and a tempo against the queen. And then after the move F5, on break, Maurice, Rex, and I were actually spending a lot of time analyzing the move Knight G5, and after a lot of craziness, we came to 0-0s.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
We did.
Well, some scary positions for white, no doubt.
There was
lots
some
of scary complications to navigate.
And then instead of Knight G5, which for some reason we were thinking it forced, Jennifer.
Well, Knight F2 looks weird because also like it seems like it cuts off some bishop escape squares after F4, right? I think that's one reason why it doesn't look appealing. Of course, right now the bishop on G6 is hanging.
Right.
But I think that's maybe that's why mentally, you look at Knight G5, right? It's forward. It doesn't block your bishop's pathway.
Okay, we've got something concrete, Maurice.
I'm sorry, but
yes, please.
More critically, your knight sucks.
On F2?
I'm sorry, sophisticated analysis. The knight, you look at the knight. Where does the knight want to go now? I mean, the knight is sitting on that square. What is its intention? I almost want to maneuver it to H3 so I can go to G5. Right. What is the knight doing?
Well, I guess the point, basically the point is Fabi didn't want those variations where you got to play bishop G5, and E4. So he was...
Maybe so.
Whereas now you are covering the E4 square.
That is true. That is true. But that said, you're talking about that line versus your knight, having a bad square, and you're going to have to figure out how to improve this piece, because it's on a bad square right now.
By the way, quick Knight C5 by Magnus.
Knight C5 has been played to underscore that. You go from having a centralized knight on the E4 square with the potential to move forward to a square like G5. You have a knight on D7 that's sitting there laying in wait. All of a sudden, what do you get? You get a pawn move that forces the knight back to the unusual F2 square, with us wondering what its prospects are. What are your next couple of moves with that knight?
Right.
And a knight leaping to the C5 square with ferocious ideas, suddenly in a position of capture on D3 threatened, potentially F4 being threatened. We should also point out the time situation is huge for Magnus right now. He's up over 30 minutes on the clock as we speak. And in response to this move, instead of taking on C5, the computers were giving this as required in this position. Fabi has played the move F4 on the board right now, and the engines are really and seriously liking black's position more and more. This Knight F2 move, will he regret it? And the time he's spending on the clock, he's feeling the pressure, the heat, as Magnus is looking to knock him out in this game. No tie break necessary.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of recoiling. Exactly.
B5 is also on the menu.
B5 is.
Knight takes D3.
Knight takes D3
I got
ideas.
tempos, even if.
But I really do want to emphasize what Maurice was saying about the move Knight F2 for just a second. The knight on E4 is on a great circuit, and the problem is, and I've seen it time and time again from the great players, Vichy, Gary, Vladimir Kramnik, who's coming up, by the way. They drive their opponent's knights to these impotent squares where the knight just has no chance of jumping back into the play. This pawn on F5 essentially dominates this knight on F2.
Right,
And then after knight C5, it's very clear that, well, black has all the play. You just mentioned it yourself, Jen.
Oh,
I mean, B5 B5 with the idea of knight takes D3, this rook on C2 is going to lack protection. You won't be able to capture that pawn on B5, and black will just be able to open up the position on his choosing. Next problem, and you mentioned this, Maurice, a long time ago when you saw the move F3, you were always fearful of the move F4, that it would just blow up the king site. So you could imagine a position with knight takes D3 on tap, followed by F4.
Or even F4,
and bad things start happening to White's position just like that. That's why we saw the move F4.
Yes.
That's
why we saw that. But this gives black so many options too, all of which look appealing. I mean, I could even, I'm looking at B5, E4, E takes F4 with the bishop coming to F6. It just feels like every single line, there's something some kind of happiness for black.
All you gotta do is look
Bishop
at the pieces.
Takes, yeah.
Look at the pieces. Look at the differences in the position between White's pieces and Black's pieces. Now, White does have
one
that.
solace White has is the bishop on G6.
Right.
It has great comfort there.
Right.
Congratulations.
Right.
As the rest of your pieces look awful, and the king safety with B5 coming with threats, you're gonna have to kill that knight on C5 just to deal with all the agony that you're about to face. This position, just everywhere you look, you just have to glance at it to look at the coordinated action of Black's forces versus the mismatch, just like random placement. It looks like queen on B4, not connected to the knight on F2, the knight on F2 not having a real future, bishop on E3 kind of just standing there. The rooks are not connected. The king would rather be on B1 than C1. I mean, there's so many minuses that you can't count on just that bishop on G6 as the only thing that's compensating back for this position. This is tempo all day for Black. Fabi's going to have to put on his best defensive hat and hope that Magnus plays quickly and makes some kind of error, because this is definitely in Black's favor.
Good defense has been the name of this match, but, I mean, you're absolutely right. And it was Garry Kasparov who said, you're always behind a tempo, but you're especially behind a tempo when you castle queenside. Right. Because you haven't finished castling, right? You still need to play king b1.
Yeah, tuck your king away with king b1.
And then if you combine that with the rook h2, rook c2, more long-winded maneuver, it's not that shocking that... Not to mention just the whole nature of playing White in this Sveshnikov line where you're moving your knight to b5 to a3 and just making so many knight moves. It's not that surprising that Black has a development edge in a lot of situations.
Absolutely.
Now, it's not a pure development edge here. It's just that king b1 move. But famous last words, just that move, right?
Yeah, you need a tempo, and it's really, really hard, Maurice. It's really hard.
I am stunned. I am really stunned as I'm going through this. Watching the way Magnus plays attacking positions, it's as though it's not in his fingertips the same way. I mean, guys, you give him a chess problem, he's going to solve it instantly. But some of his attacking type setups where you flow like a Garry Kasparov, just rook G3 in that game where you just knock the guy out. You've seen it even when he played H5, played a little bit too quickly when he was going on the attack, and it didn't work in that game in the English. In this one, he's now played a move that I will just tell you is just paradoxical to play, is the move A5. Like, my queen is not happy on the square B4. It wants to come back into the action. We're talking about the discoordinated play involved in having this queen sitting on this point. To bring the queen back to guard the rook in some kind of way, that alone is a tremendous benefit. To bring the queen back and guard the bishop, there's just a couple of moves that you push this queen to a better square by playing this move. And it really is odd to see this move on the board. And that's just for starters. This is optically to think about it from a strategic standpoint. But you got to wonder, why push the queen away? And then when you start asking the Indians, well, what do you think about this move? And they're also saying, no, this helps White tremendously in the situation. I'm very confused by the conceding of the B5 point in this situation. Now you can't even open the A file if you play B5, CB, AB. You don't get to open the A file as well, just in case you want to get an attack going down there. All the streaming attack would happen. This move, guys, A5, that's just very strange to see Magnus play this move. And he's playing rather quickly, given that he has so much time on his clock. He hasn't really borne down and gotten into all the details of the position. It's almost as though he's feeling Fabi's time pressure. We've seen this happen before. Maybe he's a little bit nervous too. Playing very quick, these automatic moves that may not be ideal for this situation. Fabi's got to breathe a sigh of relief. I don't think he's breathing any sigh of relief right now, given how he feels. it must be a mile a minute. But this move at least seems to have let go of that, the hold he had on Fabi, and has given him a little bit of a chance.
Wow, I find the move very perplexing as well, Maurice. For everything you've said, I thought the queen on b4 was misplaced to begin with, so you're just pushing white's queen to a superior square, whatever that superior square might be. So,
Queen d2, by the way, was played.
Also, because I just thought b5 was so compelling to open up lines on the queen side. a5, queen d2 on the board. So, little bit perplexed by this move. The one thing I think the move does have going for it, like imagine black is thinking, I'm just going to shut down the queen side, which is kind of contrarian, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to play b7, b6, you're going to play king b1, and I'm going to turn all the attention, all the gravitas of the position towards the center. So let me just play bishop f6. I'm not going to do anything particular, Jen. So just like king b1.
You're just going to close it down with e4 or no?
No, I'm not going to close it down with e4. I'm just going to put my pieces in the center. My next move might be b7, b6. So then all my pieces are in the center, and I'm saying, you, white, will have to justify your rook being on c2. Mm-hmm. Which would work maybe if you could get in b4 and c5, your rook on c2. But if the queen side gets shut down after a5 and b6, then the rook on c2 is going to be a little bit misplaced. We already have established the knight on f2 is no great shakes, right? And for the moment, black just controls the center and challenges white to come up with an effective plan. And while it's kind of a risk-free attack and it's kind of confounding, there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, it's a challenge for white to improve his position.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think also about the possibilities. What are some other good things about a5? Because
right, that's what I'm trying to
think about Magnus. Like, I mean, obviously he understands that b5 is an idea.
Champion, yeah.
So I feel like maybe there's something in there too that he wants to play like e4 and reroute his bishop. It feels like a5 might involve trying to play for e4 and
put this guy on
and maybe
bishop.
Play b5 anyway. Play like bishop e8 and b5 or a4.
Well, yeah, I can imagine a4, knight b3, some really weird ideas where you can checkmate.
Or e4, bishop e8, threatening bishop a4, and then you can't play b3 because the bishop takes b3.
But white's still worse. F6. Black is still better.
Oh, no question about it.
But this way, there are some ways to be worse, and there's some ways to be worse. Mm-hmm. This way of being worse, as far as white's concerned, is definitely better than the other way. The other way, the guy is trying to rip your head off.
Right.
Right? He's playing b5 and saying, ha, look at your position, how you feel now. This way is, I got you in squeeze. It's almost what people would suspect from Magnus, the way he can just control a position, no risk on his side, and just control and control and control. I think a lot of people, I can imagine, like Judith Polgar saying, like this? like, why don't you just go kill him? Like, just go get him. This one is more sedate, more controlled. Let's look at the position. Still, objectively speaking, white doesn't have much to do.
e4 played,
and bishop e2, e4.
After queen d2.
Queen d2, right, queen d2. Actually, bishop f6 was not played.
No.
a5, queen d2, and now the move e4.
Shutting it down.
Shutting it down, and now we're expecting the move bishop to e2 to be played. And now we have this position. Black says, white, you don't have anything to do with your pawn formation. There's no b4. There's no a3 b4 going to happen either. There's no g4. There are no pawn moves for you, period.
Right.
So I've shut down anything you can do, and now I'm going to slowly prepare the idea of b5, which you probably can't stop, and then hope that that's good enough. Like, that's going to make the position work. Was this the best way to go? I see a knight landing somewhere back here. Bishop e8 was played.
Bishop e8 again, trying to threaten bishop a4, skewering the rooks. You can't play b3 because the bishop takes b3. So how does Fabi play against this? I mean, king b1, bishop a4. Now you can play b3.
Well, first of all, you need to play g6. Because I'm going to tell you, if you play bishop a4, I'm sacking that exchange.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's happening automatically.
You just
I'm
take on
taking
h5,
stuff,
right.
and I'm getting my play. So you need to play a move like g6, because I will be happy to give up a
Well,
rook
it's
in
your
this
move
position.
now anyway. So
Okay,
you're just
I'll
gonna
play king b1.
So king b1.
So king
yeah.
b1. If you want to play bishop a4, it's like a go-ahead moment. Like, go ahead.
Right, I'll
if you want to,
sacrifice the
please, I'll be
exchange.
happy. So you're probably going to play g6 just to make sure that nothing
Right.
happens on that side. But then we get to move the rook away. And
Exactly.
And then you keep it going, right? The game
Right.
goes on. So
Like something like rook e1, so you can go rook d1 to e1, so you can go knight to d1.
But now I tried that bishop f6 maneuver because bishop a4 doesn't really work anymore. It
I just
induces
moved my rook.
it induces b3 or
Well, I'm not going to play b3
You're not even
and,
gonna play B3,
and
yeah.
weaken my queen side. I'll just move my rook and okay, bishop f. I'm saying from White's point of view, I'm really happy about this because I can put the knight on e3. I've got a pretty good blockade going on.
and knight d3 here could be a problem though because after bishop
Knight
takes,
d3. Oh,
bishop
that's
takes
a tempo.
F6,
Oh,
I have
that's
knight
a
takes e1 and I'm hitting your other
rook on
rook.
c2. That's very, very impolite. I
wow.
want to say.
No, this whole line, it's funny because I think I was among the people who thought that Magnus would play double King Kwan today. Like, actually, last night I thought it was actually 50-50. And part of the reason I reduced the odds was because I saw a tweet by Robert Hess where he was saying he thought that, hey, I mean, Magnus has been playing the Sicilian. Like, he'll probably just keep playing the Sicilian.
Right.
It's naive to think that it's, like, so much less dangerous to play double King Pawn, right?
Right.
But I think it's also a little bit of this, like, small sample size, which I often critique myself, that just because White got two great positions in the Open Sicilian in a row
Right.
doesn't mean he's going to keep getting them,
That's right, right.
And in fact, now today was a day that it turned out the other way.
Exactly.
And I think it's quite early to say it, to say that Magnus is going to win this game. So many people on Twitter are just like so confident in his position. They're like calling the match. But
Really?
if you take a look at the incredible defense in the other games, it's hard to
Right.
do that. Yeah,
No.
sure, Magnus against a lesser GM.
Fabby's not collapsing, that's for sure. But hold on, come on, Maurice, help us out here. I didn't think shutting down the position with a5 and e4 was in Black's best interest. Am I wrong? What does the sissy think about Black's play?
Black's still better.
Black's better.
Black's what is just
Yeah.
if I'm sitting here.
What
as
do
a-
I got?
as
What
a
do I
player,
got?
I want to know what are you playing? What are you playing for?
What's your
I mean, we
choice?
don't need an engine to look at this position.
Right.
What
What's
am
your
I
choice?
playing for as White? Show me your next 5 moves. If I don't do anything, I always tell this to my students. I see your idea. If I don't do anything, like actually what I tell them is make a move. And they say, well, you have to make a move. I said, no. I want you to move. And I've done this on this show with you,
Sure,
guys.
of course.
All the time. What are you going to do? I'm going to do nothing for a few moves. Let me just shuffle back and forth to see what your best idea is. And then I will fashion what to do about your best idea.
Well, my best idea is to move my king, tuck
Yeah.
my king away, reposition my rooks, and most importantly, reposition the knight on f2 to the e3 square. If I could get in...
So you want to move your rook, move
bishop
both,
e8, bishop king b1. Let's start with king b1.
right? So you want to move your rook, move this rook,
Play bishop d4, knight
move
d1.
this bishop, bring this knight back here, and then
play
bring your knight to
e3.
e3.
And after I've done all of that,
Yes. Then what?
I haven't activated anything. I haven't created a threat.
Right.
I just feel like I've improved ever so slightly the position of my pieces.
Okay. So let's say you've done all those moves.
Exactly.
What is your next set of moves? I mean, we
then
got
I've
rooks out the
my
way. We have a
fortress.
bishop here. We have a knight here. You're hoping for a fortress.
Well, yeah. Then I've just got my pieces on their best squares, and I'm saying I can't do anything more.
So that is the kind of stuff I don't want to hear if I'm White, right?
Yeah.
I'm going, I got to make 5 moves. And when I'm at the end point of my 5th move,
You've reached the
your words were, I don't have anything to do. I got a fortress. I'm on my best squares.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
That sounds awful, right?
Correct.
That's like, you did all that to do what? Meantime, so now we got what he wants. Now, Black is going to prepare B5.
Right.
This is what's coming, all right? This is the setup for the long term. And once Black hits with that move, you better be completely ready and hope that your setup stops that.
Exactly.
At the moment now, we have the move Bishop F6, I believe,
After
has been
King
played.
D1,
So a little bit of cross-circuiting on your move, your Bishop D4 move, when it happens.
Yep.
Also, don't forget who has the protected pass pawn in the position. Spatial advantage goes to who? Black. Forget White having space advantage.
No.
Oh, safe king. Any breaks left? No breaks left. This is off the menu. Actually, I'm thinking about this move myself because I just need to open up the game, so I'm keeping it in the back of my mind somewhere. This is a move that you can play in a lot of positions if the guy's not paying attention to crack the position open. Right. But the problem is H takes. And unless I have rooks doubled on this line and ready to sacrifice everything on G4, looks like it's not going to be anything special. And even then, maybe it won't work for anything of value. So that's gone. We're looking for pawn breaks for white. They don't exist. So, in other words, with Fabi being down so much on the clock as well, 55 minutes for Magnus, 23 minutes for white. He's got to get in another 10 moves. He'll probably make it as long as this move doesn't land at any point where it hurts. That is the real concern that white has right now.
Right.
Black playing this move, B5, just at the right moment. He's not worried about bishop A4. He'll sack an exchange if need be. He's worried about this move, B5 landing, and what Magnus has done, he's played like Petrosian. He's played like Karpov. He hasn't played like Kasparov. He hasn't played like Tal. But he's played like the other champions who say, you've got nothing to do.
Right.
Stand there, and I'm going to hit you in the face.
Right.
And I'm going to hit again. You got nothing to do. Okay, I'm going to punch. Okay, maybe that one didn't land. I'm going to try it again.
Right.
All right? Fabi said this after his game. What was that game where he played bishop takes F3 with the black pieces the last time Magnus, the second to last time, Magnus had white in that English. When he took on F3 and they said, why'd you do that? You gave the guy a clean advantage. And Fabi said, I know, but I didn't just want to drift. It looked like black had easy moves to play, and I wouldn't know what to do. I would just drift. So I decided to just make it very clear and go into this opposite color bishop ending that looked like maybe I could make a draw, and it was easier to play. That's the critical point. It was easier to play. You're in this position. You can't do anything about what black's going to do. This is the kind of nightmare position he does not want to see.
Right.
Black has all the play. You're trying to reposition your pieces to get them on good squares and hope that when the blow comes, you're ready.
Yeah.
That is a tough way to fight for the World Championship for your life right at this moment.
Well, you put it like that. I get all concerned.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Jennifer, I'm looking for reassurance.
Well, I feel like we're all split because in one hand, as commentators and lovers of chess, we love the game.
Of
I mean,
course.
an open line Sveshnikov,
And we want to
Magnus,
rip
throwing down
tear.
some fascinating ideas from not only a tactical point of view, but also a strategic point of view.
Right.
That's one of the reasons I think so many people love the Sicilian. It's not just
it's rich.
tactics, it's also strategy.
Oh, absolutely.
And different ideas castling on opposite sides, sometimes playing more positionally, sometimes going for the end game.
Right.
It's like every idea in chess is in the Sicilian, right?
By the way,
But,
it should be
of
pointed
course,
out. You put your knight on.
It's nerve-wracking for Fabi.
You put your knight on E3, which you call optimal.
I went to D1 and then to E3, correct.
What about putting it on G5, where it belonged in the first place?
Knight H3,
Knight
G5.
H3 and put it on G5. Like, what about that as an idea, at least? To make the guy think about Knight E6, you might take on, I really don't want to take on C5 because that bishop looks like it's going to laugh at me. But if I don't let your bishop get into the game with power, that dark square bishop, and I get my knight to E6, at least I take this knight off of this anemic square and give it, I mean, your E3 looks okay, yes, but I don't see the potential if he plays G6 where it's going to go from there.
Right, you give yourself better
So you want to put
life.
some moves on the board then? Like,
I want to be able to play Knight H3.
Knight H3, okay.
Maybe even
To go to G5.
to look to go to G5.
To take on C5, and then at least from G5, we'll be able to jump to E6 on a good day.
And by the way, I get some of those G4 breaks again because I'm always going to take on E4.
So your idea is
too.
that after bishop A4, you're always just sacking the exchange with bishop H5?
I think 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes to that question.
Okay.
But there is a small problem.
There is a bit of problem with that stupid
But the
B5 move also is going to come in with.
Well, there's knight
this
E2,
threat,
queen
this
takes
concrete
C4.
threat. Yo, this I don't like.
So the problem is taking on H5 doesn't actually start an attack at all. You need to be able to like take it with a queen to start an attack. It looks like we have a move. Rook on.
We move his rook to E1.
Okay, I mean, I understand Fabi's idea. I'm thinking he wants to bring his knight into civilization. F2 is not doing anything. E3 or C3 are more compelling squares. But I think that was a very legitimate and good idea to play knight h3 and knight g5. I think Fabi, when he rejected the move knight g5 earlier, doesn't want to come back to it 2 moves later.
But that said, like if you played after bishop a4, you would have had to maybe play b3, and then we had to calculate the sacrifices first of all. Yeah, so maybe maybe he didn't like the looks of that, or even not sacrificing, even just like saying, okay, maybe I've made an achievement by weakening that a1 to h8 diag.
No. If you could induce white to play the move b2, b3, I think you would really want to get that in.
But now, of course, with the rook moving to e1, bishop a4, you simply move the rook away.
Right, bishop a4 in this case would really hit nothing. And it's not like the rook is great on c2 anyway. The rook would just back off, get out of the threat, and oops, well, you shouldn't leave this guy hanging for the rest of the game. You're going to have to play g6 or bishop back to e8.
But then what's your bishop doing on a4? And that's why, right. I mean, rook to e1 hasn't necessarily committed to knight d1 is my point.
Right, okay.
He could still try to maneuver his knight to g5.
So let's say we go g6 just to release the bishop to make b7, b5 possible.
And now I try your knight h3 idea. Maurice's,
yeah, it's definitely Maurice's idea, not mine. Knight h3 to get the knight to e5 on a good day.
g5.
To get the knight to g5, I mean, yes. Now, how do I go about trying to exploit this opportunity?
I mean, how to play as black here.
Yeah, precisely. How to play as black.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get b5 in somehow, like b5 and queen b6 or something like that.
Right, exactly.
Or b5 and queen b7.
Queen b7, put your pieces over there. And just be proud, right?
Well, yeah, and I'm also, gosh, it's difficult. It's not easy, huh?
Well,
I'm also looking if I ever have an idea like playing fianchettoing my queen, play queen g7, and.
I was also thinking that if you could get the pawn to b3, then to play bishop to h8 and queen g7.
Exactly.
And then you're on the long diagonal. You're really happy. Right now, I don't feel that the rook on f8 is really being heroic. So let me put the rook on a better square so that when you go knight g5 and I put the rook on e7, I'm anticipating that one day the knight's going to go to e6. But at least once it does that, it won't be attacking a rook on f8. So let me play rook f7, knight g5, rook e7. I don't think you want to capture this, and you get a good knight on e6.
But remember bishop d4, knight d3 we were trying earlier? Now bishop d4, knight d3, you have bishop takes f6, knight e1, bishop e7.
Right, so you could play bishop d4.
So this is different now.
Yeah, now you could play bishop d4 and provoke a trade, let's say.
And I think the line there is okay for white that I just mentioned. Knight d3, bishop f6, knight e1, bishop e7, knight c2.
Oh, better than okay.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to take on e7. You just take on e1.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
My computer just really loves white there.
Yeah,
so
because before our rook was on f8. That's the thing. We were protecting the bishop on f6.
Yeah, so bishop f6 could provoke the trade of bishops for sure.
So this rook e1 move by Fabi doesn't necessarily imply that he's going to play the knight d1 maneuver.
No.
It's more of just like a prophylactic move so that he doesn't have to weaken his position with that ugly looking b3 move, which every dragon player knows. I mean, like once you get that open diagonal. I mean, once you play b3, you better be getting bishop d4 in.
Right.
Let's put it that way. If you don't get bishop d4 in, you'll be in big trouble. And then I'll have knight d3, like we looked into the other lines, because I haven't maneuvered my rook to e7 yet.
Right. Let me just tell you to the audience, we are trying to get Vladimir Kramnik to join us. We don't know exactly when.
Speaking
of the devil,
I was going to say, speaking of the world champion.
Way to induce him, yes.
Hey, well, get on it, man.
Welcome to the show, Vladimir Kramnik.
Yes, pleasure for me to be invited at this particular moment of the match and of the game.
Fantastic. Vladimir, share your thoughts. First of all, Sveshnikov, how do you like the position?
It depends which position you mean. If black's position I like very much, yeah. White's a little less, to put it mildly.
To put it mildly.
Are you surprised by the way Black played so far? Do you think that this kind of control chess was the best way to go? Because he could have played much more sharply with ideas like b5 instead of a5 and shutting the game down.
Yes, I think that Magnus, okay, he's trying to play with no risk at all. I mean, he has an advantage. He had a big advantage. Now it's getting smaller and smaller. I can see with every move. But he's trying to be completely safe. He knows that he has absolutely zero risk. And then to try to win it, in a technical way. But because I suppose he thinks that in tiebreak he has better chances. So he just wants to avoid any stupid blunder by himself. But I agree that I'm pretty sure he could have done much better. I mean, at some point his position was really close to be winning, maybe even. Now I would say that it's still very unpleasant for White, in my opinion, very difficult to defend, but it's kind of blocked, and winning is not going to be so, easy for him. But frankly, I still don't like it for White at all.
What's your
Black just
plan?
played
What's your
A4.
plan right now, by the way? What's your assault? He has played the move A4. What's your way of winning this game if you are Black? What's a concrete plan you see that's going to hurt White's feelings?
No, but I mean, it's slowly. I guess you try to push B5. There are some ideas, maybe knight B3 at some point, even A3, and some tactics on diagonal. The main problem is that White doesn't have any real counterplay. I mean, he has to choose what to do. For instance, changing bishops or not on D4. Of course, ideally, I would try to change the bishops on D4 and put my knight on E3, and then it will be more or less okay. Even so, there is B5 always coming. It's actually quite difficult to understand what White should do. Maybe knight H3, knight G5. But of course, Black has free play on the queen side, and White's position is really dangerous, especially in a practical sense, and especially considering not such a great time management of Fabi today.
Just to interrupt you for a moment, Vladimir, what is the current time?
Around 50 minutes for Magnus and 18 for Fabi. And now Fabi on move after Magnus has played A4. So
Right.
pawn to A4, is he going to go for this plan of knight H3 to G5?
Well, I would say that, I think Magnus is kind of trying lazy chess a bit. He's just making good moves, useful moves, and he wants... I think he might be thinking that his position will just improve, and one day something will come up, some tactics will... And maybe he is right, it's hard to say. But also, it's his play last few moves is kind of a little slow to my taste, but it can be still strong. Maybe he is right. I don't know. Hard to say. It's too complicated position.
Well, one of the things, Vladimir, is the stakes are so enormously high, you can almost understand this aversion to risk and burn bridges. So just a lot of moves that Magnus has played are good, strong moves, but not necessarily the most sharp or aggressive, because he's just he's trying to avoid losing the world championship on a blunder, as you said.
Yes. Okay, it's not like it's
not
it's
heroic.
understandable, and the thing is that his moves are still good. They're still good, and it's very understandable. His now only concern is to win the world championship match. That's the only thing I'm sure he cares now. He doesn't care about playing best moves, winning now or in Blitz Armageddon. Doesn't care at all.
Right.
I think he just wants to win it. So he's trying to minimize risks and trying to get, let's say, the maximum of winning chances for the match. And I can tell you that I'm pretty sure that he understands very well that his moves are not objectively the best ones, but I think he knows it very well. But he's just doing. He's being very professional as during the whole match, as now. Maybe to someone tastes even a little too professional, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But so far, he's. Everything is today is going. In his direction. Obviously, today. So far, it's really the worst possible scenario Fabi could have for this particular game.
And the clock is not his friend at all, as he's down to 16 minutes as Fabiano for the rest of his moves, and with Magnus over 50 minutes left on the clock. Vladimir, we had asked Gary this question. When you are playing that critical final game, the one that you know is for all the money, World Championship title, which you did when you defeated Kasparov, which you did when you defeated Leko, which you did when you defeated Topalov, what do you do to prepare for such a moment? You personally, what did you do when you said, okay, this is the one where I've got to bring all my strength as a chess player to achieve a dream that I've had since I was a little boy?
No, it depends on the person very much. There are different approaches. My approach was always just to forget about it. I mean, I was just thinking about the game as if I'm playing a regular game. That's what was my always way of playing such games. Is just, okay, I'm trying to do my best and let's see what happens. I mean, in such moments, especially when it's World Championship match, maybe I have a strange and a bit old-fashioned way of seeing it, but I believe it's, it's already not so much up to you, what will happen, because it's very, you might get lucky, you might get unlucky. I mean, you're not in control anymore fully so the only thing which you control is your play, is your stamina, is not to blunder, I mean, not to get too nervous, I mean, to play as well as you can at this particular moment. And the rest, you shouldn't think about it ideally, because, anything can happen. You can blunder, your opponent can blunder, you can play a brilliant game, or you can play a good game and your opponent plays even better one. I mean, anything can happen. So you should just concentrate on playing well, and as simple as it sounds. At least this is my approach. Maybe Gary has different one. I don't know. But
Gary was similar. Gary was similar in his statement about just it being a challenge. For him, it's amazing to hear the great champions talk about how relaxed, more or less, they were just thinking about the game. But that said, were you never, peeing in your pants during these games? Like, when you're like, oh my God, I'm super nervous at this moment. Didn't it happen to you, like during one of the games where your heart just beating out of your chest, even when you went to the board and tried to just play chess?
No, only when I was very young. When I was maybe 17 or something, maybe it could happen, but not really, because, it's a philosophical question. After all, I was never forgetting and never forget still that it's only a game, It's a world championship, blah, 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 a lot on stake, but it's a game of chess, It's not a matter of life. It's not there are many things which are more important in life than a world championship title, still. So that makes you feel like, okay, of course it is important. You really want it when you are playing the world championship match, but after all, life goes on. Life is much bigger than just this game, a world title, and that makes you somehow maybe cool down a bit and not to get too nervous. But of course, maybe for someone he needs another approach. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he needs exactly the opposite to get to his best. I mean, so it's very individual. It depends very much on your temper, on your character, even on your philosophical way of seeing life. So I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I'm just telling you what I feel when playing such games.
These guys seem really cool. Vladimir, what were the things that you were referring to that are more important than the World Championship?
I don't know. I've got 2 kids, for example, now. Family life, your health, your friends, your parents, whatever. I mean, many things are more important than
sounds like a great list. I like that list.
and back to the position. Fabi did not play for knight h3 to g5. He played queen b4. What's your impression of this move?
I think it's fine. Yeah, I'm not sure knight h3, knight g5 was really risky, because you could really get mated. I mean, he's trying to avoid to get mated. The main problem, I mean, just to control the queen side. The main problem is that, it's quite difficult. For black, it's easy to play here. You can make almost any move, and useful move, g6, even whatever, yeah? And white has to choose a plan, and there is a lot of tactics. If knight goes from f2, some knight d3 might come. b5, you have to watch out for b5, for all sorts of a3, rook 8, a3. that makes it, I would say, not only the position is a bit, I would say, rather unpleasant, but it's quite difficult to play for white. You really have to control lots of different things, and that's why, okay, it's not a terrible time pressure, but since the position is complicated and every move which white have to make is quite a difficult decision, he might end up in a serious time trouble. I mean, I have a feeling. But okay, then it's, first of all, he is a good fighter, and also Magnus can start to get a bit nervous, or other way around, to get too safe, you know. And in both of these cases, anything can happen.
Speaking of which, time trouble again, Jennifer, I just want to ask what the times are.
45 to 15 is what we have. 45 minutes to Magnus on move with 15 minutes for Fabi with 10 moves to go.
A 3-1 time edge.
3-1, plus 30 on the clock. How significant is that, Vladimir, in a position like this one with white, as you mentioned, having very little to do and have to worry about all kinds of potential blistering tactics if he makes an off move?
It is very important. I mean, it is a serious issue, yeah, because, okay, if, let's say, Magnus plays some useful kind of good move now, b6, whatever, then you have, again, every move is a decision. To play knight d1, not to play knight d1, to go to knight h3. I mean, you cannot really move so much with white, but you cannot also stay, because black will slowly, you know, move all his pieces and push b5 or something. So the decisions are not easy for white, and therefore, of course, having not much time might be a serious issue, yeah. But I would say, all in all, so far, really things are going really as bad as it could get, you know, for Fabi today. I mean, but it doesn't mean it's going to end badly. But it's really a bad day for him now. I mean, bad preparation. Wrong plan, not good play, little time left, but he's a good fighter. I mean, you know, and in such moments of critical moments, even Magnus, with his nerves and with his, you know, stamina, can make something wrong. You know, you're never sure about anything.
Vladimir, if I can be so bold as to ask you just about the opening, because as it turned out, as the players got to this position right out of the opening with h4, you in Batumi Olympiad had faced this. And I have the position after h4. Could you just kind of give us your thoughts on the opening and this position specifically?
If I remember well, my opponent played bishop e7, which is, I actually considered it as best move. But a6 is also very interesting, very sharp move. h5, I personally considered it as, okay, normal. I mean, a6, a, b, hg, bc. I remember it was very sharp and very unclear. But I guess, okay, I have analyzed it like 2-3 years ago, and not with the most powerful computers, so probably now they are telling something pretty different. But I remember here bc4, if I remember well, and it was sharp and not completely clear to me. But in any case, but h4, h5, I mean, frankly, I was very surprised today, and I don't want to be, you know, rude to anyone, but I think it's a big failure of the team of Fabi that actually he was starting to think after bishop e3. I mean, the line is very sharp, very direct, so I mean, it seems to me that the move h5 was simply not even analyzed, you know, and this is a very big failure, because it's a serious move. In fact, black has only 3 reasonable moves: a6, bishop e7, and h5. And after h5, if I remember well, I was heading for bishop g5. I mean, my plan was bishop g5. And in fact, I actually don't like after h5 black's position in general. But I mean, okay, the first bad surprise was that Fabi started to think, and then I think, okay, I didn't like at all the f3 move. At least this is not the way I was planning to treat the position. I didn't want to play f3 at any, you know, at any moment.
Right.
And then of course rook h2 was just too much. I mean, so. Well, somehow it's a kind of mixture of not good preparation and that Fabi, okay, he didn't really get into the position. I mean, really doesn't seem that he analyzed it enough to get the feeling of it. And I think he made quite some wrong decisions, and okay, so he's ending up now with white, trying to survive and fighting for a draw. But okay, he has chances still. But of course, it was. I can imagine how he's feeling now during a game when he went clearly to press with white to try to win, and instead he's just have to defend unpleasant position with little time on his clock. It's a difficult feeling, but he's strong. He's a strong person, so. I still believe he has chances to make a draw, even if objectively position is not a cup of tea, for anyone.
And Black did play that waiting move, as you mentioned, the move G6 in that position, and Fabi continued with the move Rook from E to D1.
Oh my!
The Rook had just gone from D to E1. Now it goes from over to D1.
I think his plan is to go rook d2, knight d1, knight c3. He just wants to stop. If immediately knight d1, I guess he's afraid of all sorts of knight d3 moves, so he wants to stop it. But I think Black should try to get simply to regroup his pieces like b6, maybe queen s7, rook. To try to go for b5 or maybe even a3. Like at some point rook a8 and maybe somewhere a3 will be threatened. Actually, after a move like rook a8, white really has a difficult choice what to do, because it might be that a3 can be a threat already in some situation, like b3, knight b3, bishop a4, you never know. So whether he has to put queen on a3 or otherwise, one day a3 can come. So I would think of doing something like rook a8 at some point. And then actually just practical way to make your opponent think, do you want a3? You don't want a3. Maybe you want, something else. And it's, difficult to play for white this position. But, if from other point of view, I think if Magnus gets too slow and white is in time to get rook d2, knight to c3, it can slowly get some kind of fortress, I think if Magnus wants to win this game, he needs also to start calculating a bit some breakthrough, some variations, and which is for the moment not really. I don't have a feeling psychologically that he wants to do it. He just wants to get a maybe nice end game and just slowly, no risk to press. But of course, if he misses in next 2-3 moves, he misses a good opportunity to create concrete problems for white. He might not have them anymore in this game. That's my feeling.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, rook a8. My move, rook a8.
So rook a8 played by Magnus.
Yeah.
Earlier, Garry Kasparov was on, and he said that he thought that there was an over 50% chance that this game would be decisive. What's your take? Of course, that was an hour ago.
Well, an hour ago, there was, the chance was much higher than now, but it's still, I would say, I don't see any way for white to win this game unless Magnus simply blunders or makes a big miscalculation. But Black definitely has chances to win it. It's I would say now, to be frankly, 50-50 whether Fabi manages to hold it or not. But it's quite difficult situation for him now.
Those 50-50 wagers, huh? Oh, 50-50. Well, Vladimir, a question that I think a lot of people would like to hear your answer to. We've seen 11 consecutive draws. Your thoughts about that? Is it good for chess? Is it bad for chess? Is it just the fact that these guys make so few mistakes? 11 consecutive draws.
Yes, no, I see what you mean, but it's true that the general level, of course, is very high of both of them, and also of course, theory is developing more and more. Computers are really making it very difficult, not only to get an advantage, let's say, with white, but even to get a game, kind of. Right. It's true, but it's still possible. I think that, of course, when two such strong players are playing, and you see lots of draws are inevitable, and basically one loss can be decisive. Yeah, that's why players are, having tiebreak at their mind always as an option. Yeah, of course, I have to admit, anyone would have the same attitude. That, of course, I'm sure that both of them, their main motivation when they come to play, even with white, is not to lose a game. I mean, losing is really a big disaster, even a single game. Okay, and then if you get a chance to win, yes, that would be great. But so my opinion is, actually, I already told about this idea. I've heard this idea and I quite like it. Actually, that, you know, my idea how to make it, let's say, more entertaining and without actually any problem for anyone, for chess lovers, for chess players, is, so think about it. My idea is to make a tiebreak before the game one.
Yeah.
And then there is, you know, always somebody is behind and somebody is ahead. There is not a single situation, never can appear in a match that, you know, score is equal and basically draw is kind of okay for both opponents.
Right.
And like this, I'm sure, okay, it will not make like 9 decisive games out of 12, like, but I can assure you that, you know, there will be players, whoever it will be taking more risks because somebody is always behind, you know, on score.
Yes.
And I don't see any minuses in this. I mean, and also it's like kind of good warm-up for spectators before the match. For players, it's like a good warm-up, yeah. And another positive moment, you can be sure that the World Championship match will be decided in classical chess and not in Blitz Armageddon like this, yeah?
Right.
So the 12th game will be the decisive, or 11th will be the decisive one.
By the way,
mean,
we should point out, I'm sorry, we should just point out that the clock situation is getting worse and and worse. Now, 38 minutes for Magnus, 12 minutes and counting for Fabi. He's been in a 4-minute think in a situation where he's got these 9 moves to make. Now
he just played Rook D1 though.
And he did. We have him playing Rook D1. Rook A8. Was
yeah, okay, that's
last,
what I said. I think
and
think
it's
Magnus,
still his move. And it's
he's
still
kind
his
of
move after Rook A8.
It's a very difficult decision. He's okay. Rook A6 might be coming. Rook B6 and A3. I mean, he thinks how he should settle his pieces. Maybe Queen A3, then B5 might be coming after Bishop D7, Rook B8. Whether to try to counterattack, it's a very difficult decision now for White. So that's why, I mean, I fully understand, and he needs now to take time in this position because, okay, if he's just moving around, Black will get Rook A6, Bishop D7, Rook A8, Rook B6, A3, and just mate. So he needs to make it's a difficult decision, important decision now. So I think he should think now. I mean, even if he will be low on time, but let's say if he doesn't make something right now, he makes some mistakes, it will be too late to think after 2-3 moves. So he needs to do it now. So he is absolutely right.
But when does he move no matter what though? Because you can't leave yourself 5 minutes to make the next 9 moves.
You better leave yourself 5 minutes for 9 moves than 15 minutes and totally lost position. You know? I mean, no, yeah. When you anyway, you have 30 seconds increment, and you know this. I can tell you, as a chess player, this is a position you really need to make some important decision. You need to think whatever time will be left, you know, after that.
So is that because you can sense that this is a critical position? Why this position? And you're thinking it's going to calm down a little as some breaks, for instance, if we play Queen A3, you don't have to worry about A3. Is that?
Yeah, but then you have to worry about B5. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that he made all useful moves and he cannot stand. He cannot just stay because Black will improve his position. So he needs to make a strategical decision. Maybe to change the bishop at some point with Bishop D4. Whether he moves the knight through H3, G5, which is more trying to create counterplay, or to C3 trying to, should he worry about A3 or not? I mean, okay, it's a very, very difficult decision. I would even, frankly, I'm just thinking now maybe to play Rook C3 at some point, you know, just to give the rook for this night. No, of course not now. But I mean, he has something to worry about. Rook A6, especially Bishop D7, Rook A8, Rook B6, A3. I mean, it's a very simple plan, and he has to do something.
And he has only 9 minutes left. 9 minutes. Yeah, still thinking.
But he is good player. He understands well that it's a critical moment now. If he doesn't find the right plan, he can easily just, you know, I mean, his position can just deteriorate badly. So he needs he needs to create something now. I think it's a critical moment.
And that's such an important skill to be able to detect that. And you're just thinking that there's a good chance if he finds the right moves in the next couple moves, the position will calm down a little bit and he'll be able to play more quickly.
Yes, yeah, that's a part. I mean, I would probably, it doesn't look so great to play Queen A3, but I really don't like so much this kind of always potential A3 threat. Maybe to put Queen on A3, even if, and then maybe Rook D2, Knight D1. It doesn't look great, but at least kind of, you know, I would be very worried about A3. Potential idea of A3. So I would probably put my queen on A3 and pray and pray and pray.
Is that the new book on strategical chess you're writing? Prayer is good.
A little religious.
You know, in such moments, it's a critical game of the World Championship match. You have to use all possible, resources.
Resources.
Even if you don't believe it will work, but who knows? Even if that's just 1%, you should use it. So,
all resources. I appreciate
this is
that.
Not good at all.
Yeah.
He still hasn't moved yet. The clock is ticking. He's down now at 8 minutes and worse. This is absolutely not good at all. And we're talking about all those moves, Queen A3, but Knight H, so much to judge. And it looks like Magnus's decisions, whatever you might call them, maybe he could have knocked the guy out earlier, but his decision to just keep control of the position, play with no risk, and just dominate the board is bearing fruit. I mean, for practical purposes, once Fabi moves, Magnus is going to have a ton of time on the clock to set yet another difficult strategic question to his opponent. I mean, this is one of those things, Vlad, where you get the guy.
And we have big news.
Sorry to blow your world apart.
No way.
It's move 30.
The players have agreed to a draw.
What?
That's what we're hearing on both Sete and other sites.
Vladimir, we have you on the phone.
What is this?
Your first reaction to this stunning news of a draw?
No, it cannot be. I cannot believe it.
I cannot
so
believe it.
So you think it's
either.
a mistake?
I hope so, not because I'm rooting for anyone, but because, frankly, just
for the good
I don't know
chess.
how to tell it politely. Let me tell the first word which comes to my mind.
Politely.
It's a shame for Black to offer a draw in such position. I'm sorry, if it's true. It's just a shame.
Absolutely.
He's just better without any risk. And how can you offer a draw? This is out of any question for me. But okay, I don't know if it's true. Well, Fabi. If it's true, it means Fabi was really praying a lot.
Shocked.
And his prayers finally.
Talk about a gift from heaven. Is that
wow?
Ceci has still got the position up. Usually it goes blank when the position goes away, but everybody is saying it's a draw. We got a result on my screen. I'm going to tell you, there is no way. You're playing completely with no risk as Black for the next 10 moves. White is struggling to figure out how to develop pieces, where to put them.
You can offer a draw at any moment. After 5 more moves, it's just absurd. I don't know, something is wrong with Magnus. I can only have a feeling he just cannot withhold the pressure. I don't know. Okay, I appreciate him a lot as a chess player. He's a great chess player. But this is not the way you play World Championship. You have to fight. Especially in such position. It's just frankly, it is showing such a weakness, okay, in a better position in decisive game with no risk, you offer a draw. With much more time, I just don't know. Even if you believe you're going to win, I don't know why, because Fabi can always win. He has chances, but you just cannot do it. It's I would understand if he would be 1 point ahead and offering a draw in this position. Okay, maybe I would still, maybe not. But with equal time, this is absurd. Simply, if it's true, it's just unthinkable. I am completely shocked.
Maybe he's very sick.
But it at least it means that we will have a great, exciting day of chess. And frankly, I mean, I can tell now after this, okay, I mean, again, nothing personal, but I would be rooting for Fabi for sure. I mean, you cannot, I mean, this simply shouldn't happen. You cannot offer a draw in better positions. I mean, you have to be punished, you know, philosophically.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
I like Magnus. He's a fantastic player, but you simply cannot do it. I mean,
Well,
We got him on Team Fabi. We got him.
Vladimir, this
We didn't do
reminds
anything.
me.
Magnus did.
This reminds me very forcibly of Viktor Korchnoi left Polygaevsky in the penultimate round. Viktor Korchnoi, from a much better position, offered a draw, and the very next day he was punished with a loss, and they went into overtime. So I'm completely with you. I mean, it's a shame for chess. It's the World Championship.
no, not for chess. I mean, for chess was an interesting game. I mean, for Fabi, not. He was defending. You know, he was in worse position. I mean, it's. I mean, we had a lot of entertainment today, and actually, we are in a way lucky that we will have another day of entertainment. But as a world champion, even I could say for a challenger, maybe it would be kind of understandable. But you're a world champion. You know, you're the best player, and you have to prove it simply, especially in a better position.
Right.
I mean, you have to prove it. I mean, you know, it's psychology. You have to win a title, to try at least to win a title. You know, to prove that you are better. I mean, in a classical chess, and you have all chances, and then you just want to win it in a way, to win it somehow. You know, maybe blitz, maybe, you know, maybe flagging upon. I mean, it's you know what I mean. It's just not right as a world champion. World champion has a responsibility. He has to fight. He has to show he is a face of chess. He is a fighter. And Magnus, he is a fighter. I mean, we all know, but I don't know what's happening to him, that he just cannot, you know, play in this decisive moment. I mean, it's very, very sad for me. Actually, very sad.
It certainly doesn't feel heroic. This
yeah, it's. I mean, in fact, you know, even if he wins, and I think he's still favorite, but you know, this moment, I know how to say. You know, it's a turning point. I mean, it can be a turning point of, you know, I don't know, in your mind, simply that, you know, it's, I don't know how to explain to you, but, you know, you just cannot do it. You simply cannot do it. Only, of course, if there is excuse, maybe you feel really bad. I don't know. That can be, of course, the case. If you're really feeling bad, something is aching, but if everything is fine, you cannot allow it simply. I mean, you know, that's my way of seeing it. But okay, anyway, who am I to judge? And everybody has a right to make all decisions. I'm maybe just too old-fashioned, you know. But okay, I would never do it, not because of any other reason that I would feel that, you know, I cannot do it. Simply, you know, I'm not allowed. as a human, as a chess player, you know, as a world champion, if I would be world champion, I just not allow. I don't allow it to myself, not because of criticism of others, but I just cannot. You know, I wouldn't be able to sleep for 1 month if I would do it myself, because it's simply, you know, I feel like, you know, I mean, Okay, it's just my sorry for being emotional, but it was just so shocking that, you know, okay, I guess somebody would not agree with me, somebody would criticize me maybe, but okay, it's true, but it's just what I sincerely think, and that's what I tell.
Thank you,
Fascinating.
Vladimir, for your very honest viewpoint. One, I think, speaking for myself, for the whole panel, we're
shocked as you are.
And we do hope it's a turning point because, well, maybe Magnus will regret this decision. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate having you.
Thank you. And yes, I'm really looking forward for this tiebreak. It's going to be interesting in any case. And I have a feeling it's not going to be as easy for Magnus as he probably thinks. I mean, Fabi is not a bad player, rapid player at all. I mean, okay, of course, Magnus in general is stronger, but Fabi is not weak rapid player. I mean, so, I mean, you know, he can give a hard time. So it will not be so easy. I would say maybe 60-40 for Magnus, but no more. Okay. And this position, winning this position, I mean, I think he has more chances at 60-40, you know, than, I mean, he should have tried today, obviously, this position he has. So in tie-break, he's very confident. We will see. But in any case, it will be exciting, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Break out the popcorn, and thank you very much to our special guest, former world champion Vladimir Kramnik, for his candor and insight on what looked like it was shaping up to be one of the most thrilling games of the match, and the final game as well, to boot. Magnus making an incredibly strange decision here, Yaz, which I'm sure we'll get more insight into in the future. But for now, for those of you who are Fabi fans, you've been perhaps given a reprieve, because today he was under the gun. And now,
look what we have, though, Jennifer. We have tie breaks. No
That's
question
right.
about it. Coming Wednesday.
Wednesday, we will see a tiebreak for the ultimate crown, starting with 4 rapid games. That's game 25 plus a 10-second increment. If that is split 2-2, we go to couplets of blitz games, repeated up to 5 times if needed. And then the very unlikely chance that if all of those rapid games are split 2-2 and all of the blitz game couplets are split, that we'll have an Armageddon. But we're looking at like a 1% chance for that.
That's a long day of tie breaks.
That is,
especially
right?
if they go past the rapids. Sorry, Maurice, I'm still in shock over what I just witnessed, because I can't believe what I just witnessed. But a reprieve, nonetheless, for Fabi.
Yeah, but
I'm still getting to Zen myself.
When you think about it as a chess player,
right?
Forget about when you talked about world champion. Vladimir's talking about as a world champion. As a chess player, you've got the better position with no risk.
You're way ahead on the clock.
You're way ahead on the clock. But I mean, the guy has got less than 10 minutes on the clock. You got the better position. Okay, we're going to toss in that you're the world champion as well, but why would you not make some moves? Because you can always offer a draw now that you've passed move 30. Right. And those of us who would decry even the idea of a draw offer and looking for better ways to handle that rule, we look at this and say, man, look, again, one of the problems with chess is this idea that a draw offer is a good thing even in rich positions. And many people say, well, you got to give people the control over that draw offer. Look what we got here. I mean, fans paid all their money. There are fans watching all over the world. There are potential sponsors who are interested in putting money on chess. And at any moment, the players can say, we're not interested in fighting anymore. It doesn't matter if this is a rich position. It doesn't matter if one side, by all consensus, is much better. We're just not interested in fighting anymore. And you say, what kind of position do you want? What do you want so that you can fight? Right. We'll give you an edge where you're ahead on the clock, you're ahead on the board. You got very, very little losing chances. The guy I will absolutely get on his knees and thank you if you offer him a draw at any point from now until 10 moves from now, and you offer a draw now. That to me is shocking as ever. And Vlad had a lot of words to say that I just can't disagree with. It's stunning to see the game end this way. And whoever you're rooting for, it doesn't matter if you're rooting for Fabi or Magnus, it is going to be on both sides stunning to see the game end in this way.
Thank you, Maurice. Let me just add to my 2 cents for a second here, Jen. Going back to the game, just about here, these parts, there would have been a hue and a cry across the whole of the chess world if the game had ended in a perpetual repetition, a 3-time repetition like this. Everybody would have decried that draw. In the same measure,
Fabi would have been definitely
criticized.
Wait, which one is
heavily.
worse?
That's the thing. I'm
Which one's
thinking they're
worse?
both terrible.
Well, which one's you got to pick?
Maybe the draw offer is even worse.
Absolutely.
I think so, because there's an explanation at least for the repetition of position. You could say, I'm totally caught out of my preparation. I've already burnt like 30 minutes on the clock.
I've got no
I don't
edge,
I
blah,
don't
blah, blah.
actually think that I'm crunching the math, and I actually think it's a negative decision for me to go forward.
Exactly.
Especially if, for instance, he thought an extra 10 or 15 minutes. Most people would not agree with the decision, but there would at least be a logical explanation, whereas this, unless we know something about Magnus's health, Perhaps
be
he-
up.
Yeah, he better be on his deathbed to offer a
Perhaps
draw.
he,
Just a second.
well, a flu or something like that.
Michael Tull literally got off his deathbed in order to play chess.
That is true.
In order
That
to
is
play
true.
chess. And give Michael Tull that final position.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean,
to play?
taking out like kidney dialysis wires. I gotta go play, man. I gotta go beat somebody down.
And this is a
That's
good
what Tal
position.
did. And this, you better be. I mean, I played sick myself, and
We all have played.
We all
it, yeah.
played, and you know how it feels when you're sick. It's got to be something really harsh. There's got to be an external explanation for why the world champion had a better position and more time on the clock, clearly caught his opponent in preparation, and decided that he did not want to see this position anymore. Let us just hope nothing serious happened in his family, something that made it very difficult for him to even sit at the board.
Right.
Let's hope
Yeah.
it's not something like that happened.
Right.
And he might provide us with that explanation if he wishes to share what's happening in his personal life. But let's just sincerely hope that it's not that. And I'm very worried, in fact, for him that it's something like that, because not the Magnus we know would not, in how many years, take a draw from this position when he knows he'll crush. We've seen Magnus not take a draw in the Singfield Cup. Remember, Vladi was saying in the Singfield Cup, he's down a pawn and he might have some compensation and he would win the tournament with a draw. And he said, no, thank you. So to see him, that was a sign for us that he was going to become world champion. When we saw that, we said, this guy's a boss.
Yeah.
This guy's a boss. This is the exact opposite of that. It's not like his character to do such a thing. So I'm going to assume, I would have to believe that something else very serious is going on, and let's hope it's not the case. But we're going to
try to look into that. Indeed, it is.
We have some
you
friends
mentioned
over in London, including Tony Rich.
You mentioned a good point. It is concerning. I mean, looking at his face in the pictures that I've seen today, I mean, obviously he had that soccer accident from before,
where
but
he injured his eye.
Indeed, very puzzling. And he did offer the draw.
Right.
So move 30,
It was
exactly
the
move
Roque
30.
8.
He offered the draw, and Fabi was the one to accept it. Of course, Fabi wouldn't offer a draw in that
It was
situation.
move 31, actually. Rook 8 was move 31.
Right. Fabi would never offer a draw in that situation because he would assume that it would get turned down.
Of course.
Worst position, worst clock. That would just never happen.
That'd be an insult to Magnus.
So, well,
just as Vladimir said, he's not even sure if Magnus was a point ahead, whether he would offer a draw.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen Magnus be ahead, like we said, at the Singfield Cup, right here in this building that we're transmitting from.
So,
we've seen him be up, would win the whole tournament, would pocket 70 grand with just a draw. A draw was offered to him by Levon Aronian in that game, and Magnus said, I'm just going to keep playing anyway because I don't really see myself losing. So why not just keep playing? And you and I were just sitting back in awe. Like, this guy's a boss. The guy just basically said, I'm giving you the tournament. You're the king. And he said, no, I already know I'm the king. You don't need to give me any gifts. I'm going to beat you. And he went about it and beat the guy and showed just how dominant he was, and then went on to win the title a couple of months later against Anand for the first time. So he definitely has shown time and time again that he's a great champion. If there is no real explanation other than he wanted to get to Rapid, if that's his only explanation, this is going to be a stain on him. There's no way. People are going to criticize him immensely. He might say, I don't care about you. I made my decision, but it will absolutely be a stain on him that this position he decided to stop playing. Just too strange to take a good position with more time on the clock for the world title, and you decide to bail out into the uncertainty of a Rapid match. I mean, are you that confident?
There is a post-game press conference going on right now in London. We have some of our friends over in London, including Tony Rich
and
Marcus, who will be monitoring and reporting on this to us because, as Maurice has hypothesized, there could be a very serious personal upset. We hope that's not the case for Magnus, because otherwise, you're absolutely right. This will be a stain on his extraordinary record of success. I mean, he has been a great, great world champion. And to offer a draw in a much superior position with better time on the clock, safe king, it boggles the imagination why he would offer a draw.
Yeah, let's hope just whatever the explanation is, you cannot speak for how difficult it might be to play under certain circumstances. People get affected in different ways. We've seen people in life, competitors from other sports, have deep personal upsets in their family, whether it's a car accident for a wife, a brother gets killed in a drive-by shooting. I'm just thinking of things that I've seen over the years, and a player had to go to a funeral of a family friend or a family member and then have to come back and actually play under those circumstances with a heavy heart.
Sorry, Maurice, I just have to interrupt you to say that the feedback that we've gotten, Jennifer, from the press conference was
is that Magnus did not think he was much better today.
He didn't think his edge was as great as we perceived it to begin with. Second, he really just wanted to get into the tie breaks.
He was
that
playing
was
for
his
no
motivation.
Risk. I guess he didn't even picture himself winning today, and that he was hoping just for the getting into the playoffs, and somehow he didn't think that his position was a lot better.
Yeah, he was just trying to shut it down and take no risk.
But why not wait till move 40?
That's the feedback that we're getting, that he was just trying to shut down
and
the position, take no risk.
Yeah, I'm hearing too. He said, from what I'm hearing, I obviously just wasn't going to go for it today.
He just didn't want to go for it.
And he's playing just like he planned it, was to just get a draw and walk out the way he did in New York when he played with the white pieces against Karyakin in the last round, in the last game, game 12, and took 35 minutes on the clock, the shortest game in World Championship history by time. He spent 35 minutes, shut it all down, and he said, I like this formula. I'm going now to play the tiebreak. So he was not looking to win today, despite getting a great opening position, a great opportunity. He just said, I was just not going to go for it today. And he's happy with what happened. That, I will say now, pretty stunning.
And when somebody...
Jennifer, we just got Peter Doggers asked a question to Magnus at the very end. But you were much better.
And Magnus said, I don't care.
I don't care?
And said I have very good chances in the playoffs. So obviously there's no doubt in my mind that he doesn't agree with Kramnik's odds of 60-40.
Right.
I mean, he must think it's like
way higher,
80-20 in order to go for that, or even higher, because.
I must say, it leaves a very dissatisfying taste in the mouth, doesn't it?
I mean, you got to figure that he looked at that position with kind of tie-break colored glasses and was kind of convincing himself that, you know, if I go for these B5, A3 ideas, there's a little shadow of a risk where maybe I win a little bit, but there's like some winning chances for white. I mean, I can only speculate that he might have thought that he didn't feel like calculating. I think Kramnik actually came on that point. He said, it seems like Magnus isn't playing today's game to calculate, you know, and he couldn't switch that off in his head. He couldn't switch it on, rather, to start calculating and trying to win the game when he had this plan of action, thinking he was going to be a little worse. He was thinking he was going to be a little worse. He was going to be fighting for the draw somehow. I mean, I don't know. It's so weird, though, because he also played the Sveshnikov, which is like the sharpest, and played a really sharp line in it.
Right.
Nothing's adding up.
No. I do not have the zen of the position. I am very, very confused. But once again, we will be back. We'll be back Wednesday. I think the starting time will be the same. I'm not 100% sure about that.
I'm pretty sure.
The starting time is also
actually,
the same.
We should
just
confirm that,
double
because
check. It'll be on our website.
I think the reason we were confused about that, because we thought that it is the same, indeed, 9 a.m. here in St. Louis, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. At first, we were confused about that because it looks like it's going to be a very long process because of
the four rapids, and then the blitz thereafter.
Right, even with breaks, even if we just go the rapids with a short break in between, that could be 5 hours.
Clear.
But the reason is that the closing ceremony, I think, is going to be rescheduled to Thursday.
Okay.
So that's probably why.
I think it was always scheduled for the next day. It was in the regulations anyway, that it would be the day after. I mean, stated in the regulations, the day after the match ends.
Okay.
So
or 2 days after,
or
depending on
2 days after. Okay. So that's already a done deal. I mean, I got to tell you,
Maurice, final thoughts, please.
I will have no final thoughts. I will just have this one right now. I'm just going to spit something out.
Okay.
Because frankly, I'm so shocked. I'm so flabbergasted. I can't even completely understand Magnus's statements. I get what he was after, but it just feels like a great champion like he has proven to be, for him to say that this was what his whole strategy was, win the match, win the match, win the match. I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed hearts all around the world saying, even Fabi fans were thinking, this game should keep going. This game should be a game. Let Fabi defend, prove himself in this situation, but for you to just say, shut it down, all the fans of chess will look and say, this is not chess. This is what we call chess. This is something else. And, it's kind of interesting. If this was how he even had tied the match and retained the title like this, like if there were no tie breaks, I think you'd say, you'd also be concerned. Like, this is how it works. You can't win. So 12 draws, by the way, never in the history of the World Championship, ever, as it happened, that the players haven't won at least 2 games in a match, like one side and one side at least. And we saw that happen in the last match, 2 wins. Lasker Schlechter also featured 2 wins in a 10-game match. To see no wins at all in a World Championship match in the classical portion is now affirmed as the worst you can have. Right? You can't break that record because they drew all the games in the classical portion. So that is one dubious record that they will hold. So, I will obviously be babbling for a long time. We will be talking about this one for hours, if not the next couple of days, trying to understand what we saw today, but not a great thing to happen for chess.
No, and indeed, Magnus was also asked that in the press conference, and again, he said, I don't care. I mean, well, I guess that's pretty clear. I mean, he obviously, in some sense, must have believed that what he was doing was likely to give himself the World Championship match. Like he obviously has a very, very high estimation of his chances in the playoffs. Clear. And underestimated this position for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And at the board, that was his thought. I mean, I think he was trying to win the World Championship in a way that nobody agrees with. But then, I can understand why. Obviously, when a reporter asks him, do you care about how this looks for the mainstream and the popularity of chess? Well, it's pretty clear his answer is going to be no.
Right.
Otherwise, he wouldn't do it.
Of course. The way I see it is very clear. Damaging his very, very great and deservedly great reputation, damaging for his career, damaging for
do you
chess.
Not believe? Okay, but here's my question. The only thing in Magnus's defense I'll say is, maybe do you believe him that he doesn't think Black's that he at the board he didn't think Black was that much better here? I mean, because that's the key question. Like, do you believe him?
Well, I have to believe him if he says that he doesn't think Black is that much better. He doesn't. But
so then it's not. Then I think if that's the case, then it's not so bad. Because he just thought he wasn't that much better, but then why an offer to draw? Maybe because he was ahead on the clock. I mean.
Well,
it wasn't even clear in his mind he was better. Not even that he was that much better. Okay. So actually, maybe he thought his only advantage was on the clock. And therefore, I think this decision isn't that irrational.
Whoa,
so maybe he's getting
what? Sorry.
He's getting upset at the people. Maybe he's getting upset at people who think it's obvious that Black is much better when he, being the world champion, didn't think it was that obvious.
But why do you offer a draw when the guy only has 9 minutes on the clock? You could offer a draw 9 minutes from now. Well, 9 moves from now when you get to move 40. If you're not that much better,
because he really wanted a tiebreak.
Even if you're equal, what do you lose? Even if you really want the tiebreak, I'll give you that. You really want the tiebreak. You're going to get the tiebreak whenever you want, because the guy, unless you think you're going to be outplayed from this position.
Because he thinks what Kramnik was saying, that the Kramnik obviously loved the position for Black, but he thinks that right now that somehow something's going to happen and that the character of the position might change, and potentially that could change against him, I guess, is what he's thinking. I mean, unless he actually thought he was better, but just was like, I don't feel like dealing with calculating, and just said something different in the press conference. But if he literally doesn't think Black's better, then his decision makes sense. Of course, everybody's looking at the position with engines, so everybody thinks Black's much better.
What are you talking about? We don't need to look at the position with engines to know what's happening.
I mean, you would think, right? But then on the other hand, if the world champion says that he thinks Black wasn't better,
you think everybody's under collective delusion that White has absolutely no play whatsoever in this position?
But then how does
White's begging for moves?
No.
We need to go consult some
don't
article
put words
to
in
let
my
us know about
mouth.
this position.
No. She's saying that.
Don't put words in my mouth. I'm not saying.
The world champion Magnus Carlsen says, okay, maybe I'm slightly better, but maybe I'm not. And Jennifer saying, if you take Magnus at his word, then his decision to offer a draw is perfectly reasonable.
Yes.
His only advantage is on the clock.
If you take him at his word, yeah. Now, it is puzzling why he didn't think that, considering every top grandmaster. And
I would have thought black's better without even looking even further than that.
And Yasser,
so it must have been some kind
let's
of
say you have
mental
an equal
game
position.
thing.
I want to ask you that. You have an equal position on the board.
Right.
It's equal.
Right.
Your opponent's got 9 minutes left.
Right.
You've got 35 minutes left.
Right.
It's equal. You look at the board, you say, I'm not much better. Or maybe it's equal.
Okay.
It's equal, but it's got pieces on the board. Do you offer a draw now?
No, because I'm trying to exploit the guy's clock.
I mean, every competitive. I've watched Magnus
Whatever my
every
edge is.
competitive edge, and the clock is an edge as
Absolutely,
well. So you've got that in your pocket. You say, let me make a few moves.
Right.
Let me see what he does in the next couple of moves, because we know when players are in time to forget the board, erase the board.
But that's not shocking, because what he did with Karyakin in 2016. What's kind of surprising to me is that he didn't think black was better here, and I wonder if that's where the nerves came in. That somehow his brain, like,
no, wait a minute.
He's in such a draw mode.
Yeah,
he can't even.
And you're
get to a.
I don't
and I'm not talking about elite grandmasters, like international
not
masters, senior like I think most players who have played chess for a while just see this position in like black. So it's really bizarre that if you take that at face value, he didn't think he was better. That is the mystery to me.
Well,
how
I
agree with that.
Confounding matches of all time ends on a very, very confounding note.
And let me say, look, I'm saying I'm also shocked. I'm giving you the fact that he thinks the position is equal. You said maybe he thought otherwise. Maybe we're whatever. Right. So I'm giving you that. Of course, we're all saying this position is better for black, but that's I'm giving you that. Let's pretend that reality is not real. Like that in fact we're wrong. The engines are wrong. Kramnik's wrong. Everybody's wrong.
Gary.
Only Magnus is right. Gary. Okay, so let's assume that we're going to give him all that to the argument.
Right.
We're going to say yes, he's right. We're wrong. Let's give him that.
Right.
Or not that he's right, that he thought he was right at the time.
We know he said he thought he was right, but let's even say he was right. He's not much better. Let's even give him that. The last game, you have a big edge on the clock. You're up 45. He did not have that versus Karyakin.
No.
Versus Karyakin, he walked in and said,
"Oh, that's what I'm saying." But he was white,
out.
So that was weird to people too.
Okay, so that was weird too.
Yeah.
But this one, you get the position, you get something. Let's say you didn't get the position, which we think you got. But let's say you didn't get the position. Let's say you got what you got on the clock. 10 minutes. The guy's at 10 minutes. The guy's at 10 minutes. Could I say that again? Yeah. He's got to make 10 moves. You've got 30-plus minutes. I mean, I had that kind of situation before. When I have that situation, I go like this. I'm not moving for the next 5 minutes. Yeah. I want him to suffer. Yeah. I'm going to come up with my most nefarious-looking plan I can come up with, something strong that he has to spend another 2 minutes. I want his hand shaking. I want his heart beating fast. I want him to feel all that. And if we make a draw in 5 moves, 6 moves, 8 moves, 10 moves,
so be it.
You did it, man. Congratulations. You're a hero. Let's go on and play the tiebreak. But if I've got that, you know how hard it is just to get that for free?
Right.
I got you under 10 minutes with 10 moves to go, and I have that, and I got 30-plus minutes. Why am I offering you a draw? I could win right now. I don't have to wait another day, another 2 days. I could win in the next 4
days. That is surprising, too.
Maurice is talking about his competitive juices. That's what he's talking about there. And every chess grandmaster in the world knows what trumps they've got in their pocket. And when the clock is so much in your favor, you know when your heart's beating and your clock is down, and you know the other side of the shoe when you've got all the time in the world.
It's strange.
You play for that time edge.
It's just
He's playing for the clock now.
It's
Isn't he playing for clock now?
Indeed.
With the draw,
right?
That's true.
He's playing for clock. He's saying, I'm playing on the clock right now. I'm going to go play rapid on the clock, right? Where I'm better when I'm playing quickly. Where I'm going to play this guy 25 to 25, where I think I could beat him 25 to 25, where now I actually had him at 35 to 10.
It's just, to me, it's just so shocking that the best player in the world could. Honestly, I guess the most shocking part of it to me is that the best player in the world could not think that black is better here. That's like mind blowing to me. It's like this cognitive delusion type thing where everybody on the sidelines, even if they're, 2,100, 2,000, I mean, way lower than that, in fact, will be like, yeah, of course I love black here. Yeah. How can the world champion? It's crazy to me.
Right.
It's
well,
perplexing.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He wanted one thing. He went in there and he made himself see something that confirmed what he wanted.
Exactly.
What he wanted was to play on Wednesday. That's what he wanted. I want to get a draw. I don't want to lose. I want to get a draw. I want to go play the tiebreak in a situation where I get 4 games. This guy's not going to hang with me. I'm better than him. That's what my chances are. Oh, this thing right here, it doesn't look like I'm much better. I don't
Any serious chess player who's studied the strategy of the game, who's looked at Silman's books, Nimzovich's books, I think like anybody who's a student of the game likes black hair.
Of course.
So
for me, it's just I'm just so stunned by it all that I really am at a loss of words, because again, when you just you've seen the play up to this moment, and it was clear that Magnus was dictating. I mean, again, just look at White's last 4 moves. I want to just say, okay, it was something like, hold on, just a second. Sorry, not last 4 moves. Okay, this one right here, Rook E1. Queen goes back to where it was. Rook back to D1.
Way to leave an impression.
White is making waiting moves and doing nothing.
Yasser, please show me, because I told you if you make moves, please show me how you're going to beat me with White. Just, like what is
right. Well,
like, show me your next several moves that you're going to make that make me say, "Ooh." Meantime, I'm black.
I'm trying to.
I got A3 coming.
Right.
A3. Remember we were saying the guy's sweating.
Yeah.
A3 might show up on the board.
Well,
Kramnik pointed out Rook A6 to B6 is another plan. You got Bishop D7 and Rook B8 with the threat of B5 is another plan. I mean, it's all day long. You're taking this guy to school.
Right. I mean, Vladimir was even pointing out that he would be very afraid of lines where the... Hold on. I actually did it wrong. I apologize. Right here, he was saying that he would be afraid of lines where the rook comes to B6, the rook comes to A6, and there was these sacrifices of knight takes B3 that he would be even frightened to see, that he wouldn't want to.
Probably need another move like Bishop D7.
I understand.
Because with Bishop D7, right? If you have Bishop D7, you made the guy make a random move,
right?
Like a rookie 1 maybe.
Yeah.
Now knight B3 comes with real force because
Vladimir was talking about that. Well, again, guys, I mean, an amazing 12-game match, the likes of which we've never seen before. All 12 games were drawn.
Amazing is your word. Astonishing, maybe?
But the completion, this final game, will leave a sour taste, a bitter taste in our mouths for years to come. I mean, it will
just
really
the final game. What about game 11?
I like so much about I like many things about this match.
I understand, but game 11, it did kind of. Game 11 is connected to this game, right? The Petrov with C4, trading
Magnus
queens.
Just went queen, C4.
Right, queen ending, H6, D5 simplified, Bishop's the color ending.
G6,
it's 2 games that ended this match on the Sarano. We weren't happy about yesterday.
There's
only one ending that...
we're not happy with this one either.
And now Kramnik's not the only new Fabi fan, I bet, as people who are kind of like in the middle, on the fence, undecided, as we say... it's pretty easy to root for Fabi now. Easier than ever.
Well, I will say that before the match, it was always the fear, the outside chance of a tiebreaker, where we all felt, and rightly so, that Fabi would be a severe underdog.
Well,
if you look
Kramnik says 60-40. That's not severe in my book.
No, that's pretty severe.
Oh, 60-40?
60. I don't know. It's a bit.
I think it's probably worse.
Well,
well, Magnus certainly thinks so, and we'll find out who's right on Wednesday, November 28th, as we follow the tiebreak for all of the marbles in the World Championship and crown a new champion or retain Magnus as champion.
Right.
You're not going to want to miss it. It's at Wednesday at 9 a.m. here in St. Louis. That's 10 a.m. on the East Coast. I'm Jennifer Shahade signing off with Yasser Seirawan and Maurice Ashley as our Wait for a World Champion continues.
Thank you for joining us.